Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. How are you guys doing?
Good morning.
I am working on getting this thing shared out.
Uh,
While he's doing that, it's
Yeah.
Jeremy getting to share it out. Of course, I'm Donna Martin, and good to see Joe back on the show.
Thank you.
It's been a little while. Hope you've been doing good.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I was doing a wrestling show for a while, but the guy I was doing it with, he stopped communicating with me. So I don't know what the hell happened.
I don't know. Man, me and Jeremy my life's busy, so it kind of go around my schedule sometimes, and it always don't
Yeah.
go as planned. Uh, I may or may not have to skip out for a little while today.
Oh, so that's changing now?
It really depends on a couple things. My wife may be doing what I needed to do. So
Okay. Uh,
I'll know by about 11.
all right. Still, okay, there's one. Still working on getting this thing out.
I got a couple weird messages from somewhere, two different people on Facebook about no advertising in this group. Do you comply? And then it's like I don't know where they're from, what group they're from.
Yeah, whenever I see those, I just leave the group because if that's all I'm going to get, then there's no point in being in it.
Well, they didn't even list the group. That was the whole thing. I was like, I don't know if it's some kind of spam thing or what's going on with it. So I just ignored it.
Yeah. Okay.
I think
I'm
they.
all done. There he is. I'm all done sharing now. All right, Chris.
Morning.
Goodness.
I
Morning,
can
Chris.
wake up.
Ooh, I like that better.
Okay, so special episode um, since we weren't able to do a show on Sunday.
Hey, Nigel. Hope you're doing good today.
Huh?
Nigel just popped in.
Oh, hi, Nigel. So we're doing a special thing today where we're going to try to cover all of WrestleMania in one episode.
Hey, I
And
got all my predictions right except three. By the
yeah,
way,
Donald kept track of his and mine predictions. Oh,
I kept up with mine.
did you?
Yeah, I didn't keep up with yours.
Well, I know you were keeping
I
track
got everything right. No, I didn't forget.
previously. Let's see. I'm gonna do a quick once over. One, two, three, four. Got all but five.
Let's see, I didn't get that one.
So two of them, I think I was really undecided on.
So with 2, 3, 4. Let me check something right quick.
so what are we gonna do? You just gonna start out with day one and go right down the list?
Go right down the line. So WrestleMania 41. Um, 40 years after the first one, which
which
is
I remember because I watched it.
it's amazing that they've been able to keep this thing going on for so long.
But it's also interesting if you think about it. Back when the first one appeared, you had to pay, 25, $35 to your cable provider in order to get the pay per view, because that's what it was called back then. Now it's just you got to figure out if you got the streaming service that it's on. You know,
And that's the bad thing because if your internet goes out, you're screwed.
you're screwed. Yeah.
Well,
But then back then, that would have been the same thing as if cable went out,
That's true.
you know, because I got the pay per views through the cable provider. And if we got a storm or something and knocked out cable, we were screwed for that too.
I have always been
But
fortunate on that end, but there was one time I remember specifically where there was a bad storm going on where the event was at, and they lost power.
oh yeah, I remember that.
yeah,
In your house, beware of dog or something like that. It was the Shawn Michaels British Bulldog event.
Yeah.
Yeah, they ended up doing a re pay per view like 2 or 3 nights later.
I think I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, that was that was a very interesting time.
Yeah, it
Remember
was.
one going down. I don't remember if it was WCW or WWE that went down, and then it was like people were pissed, because they paid that money for that pay per view, and then we're not getting reimbursed for it,
Right.
and all because of the cable provider, and it wasn't on their side; it was on the event's side.
Absolutely. Had to fight tooth and nail to get anything back.
Hmm.
Well, we all went through growing pains on things like that. We did, they did, and now that they got the whole streaming thing, they don't really have to worry too much about timing.
Or
Yeah,
money or reimbursing anybody.
yeah.
Because it's all a monthly subscription, and it's like it's whether you got it or not.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying the this um, era of streaming. So especially with the Netflix, now I can watch Raw and I can watch it after it's over. So I can skip
Right.
commercials and all that stuff. You
Yeah.
know.
So having said that, they recently mentioned that they were looking to continue with the Peacock deal after it runs. So that's going to force fans to get Peacock and Netflix if they want to keep up on
Well,
everything.
I've had them both for years, so to
Yeah.
me it
Now,
didn't matter.
Okay. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Yeah, me is if I can only, I only want one because I don't want to be subscribing to a whole bunch of them. So I'm only going to stick with one, and I'll just stick with Peacock since it's the pay per views.
Yeah, same.
yeah, that'd be the way to go if you had to choose between the two. You can always catch up on YouTube and other stuff to what happened on Raw or SmackDown or whatever.
Yeah.
Well,
Uh,
see, I don't have cable service, so that's
I
why I
don't
use
either.
I don't
streaming
either.
services. And
Me
if
neither.
I want to watch movies, well, I'll just rent them from Amazon Prime, or go to one of those free things like Pluto or
Tubi or
QB.
Tubi. Yeah, you know.
I just put Tubi on my TV a few days ago.
CW.
The only reason I've
Yeah,
got
CW,
cable in
CW.
my
Yeah, that's it.
the only reason I've got cable here is because it's provided with our condo fees. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be paying for it at all.
So you kind of got it made there, Joe.
Yeah, the condo feeds include my high speed business internet
Nice.
and basic cable TV. That's
That's
so
that's
that's
We
what
good.
haven't
I
had
watch.
we haven't had cable in many years.
If I lived somebody else, someplace else, I wouldn't be paying for cable.
I got rid of my cable, I think, right around the beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah,
Same.
the
It-
last time I paid for cable was like 10 years ago, just
oh,
before I moved out here.
We haven't paid for cable since God. It's been at least 15 years since I paid for cable.
wow.
At least.
Oh,
I still got the little cable thing sticking out the wall over here, but I don't got cable anymore.
well, that's all their hidden fees and all their BS. It's a much cheaper to get like Netflix or Hulu or something like that, or the package deal, you
Yeah,
know, with one of those because it's much cheaper. It's a set price.
how much
And,
time?
if you could choose right, you're going to be able to watch your shows, maybe not when they're new, but, when they get over there. Some of them do next day, some of them take a week. It's just, you got to wait for it then.
Well, heck, nowadays, I enjoy watching series that are already put out.
Yeah.
2 or 3 seasons, so you
Yeah,
can binge watch your stuff instead
Right,
of
right.
waiting
I
a
do that
week.
too.
Well, that's why I'll get a whole series at a time
Hmm.
because if the internet goes out, hey, you know what? I can pop in a DVD.
hey, these are my series.
What Thundercats?
Thundercats.
Thundercats and He Man. Ooh, He Man.
The old ones.
Loved Thundercats growing up.
Is that the old He
Yeah,
Man?
that's the old one from the 80s,
Okay, they,
90s.
they you ever
Big
watch Thunder the Barbarian?
shows.
Love Thunder
So
and
let's
this. I don't know if any of you remember this shit, but
bye bye Black Sheep.
Those were the days.
yeah.
Yes,
Anyway,
Let's get into wrestling. How about that?
I
yeah,
was really quick. I was just watching a video about some of the greatest themes from the '70s shows, and
yeah,
number one was MASH. And I never knew that there were lyrics to
Yeah,
the original
suicide is
theme in the
pain.
movie,
yeah,
Yeah,
Suicide is painless.
yeah.
and it
This
was
time it's
written by
painless.
a 14-year-old kid.
yeah.
Wow.
I never knew that.
I
The
didn't know that. I didn't know that part, but I knew
I
there was
found that out a
lyrics.
couple years ago, and I'd forgot till just this moment when you were saying that. But yeah,
the son, the 14-year-old kid's father was one of the producers, and he had somebody write the music for the theme, but he tried to write lyrics to it and he couldn't figure it out. So he went to his son and said, "Give me the most ridiculous, stupidest thing you can come up with," because MASH was like a black comedy kind of
Mhm.
show, the way that I'm reading it. So his son, in 5 minutes, wrote "Suicide is Painless" in 5 minutes,
Wow.
and it became one of the biggest hits ever.
Yeah, it is a very recognizable song when you hear it.
Yes, it
Yeah,
is, and it set him up for life too.
I watched that, and I watched Hogan's Heroes. That was
Yep.
one of
Oh,
my
there's
favorites.
another old show. God, you're making me feel old.
Hogan. I watched the Baba Black Sheep all the time,
Oh man, I here
and
on
Thundar. I
youngest.
had to watch Thundar too.
All right, let's get into this WrestleMania 41. It was held in it said Las Vegas, but it's actually in Paradise, Nevada, because of the city limits. At the Allegiant Stadium, there are conflicting reports of the attendance. They announced a total of 124,000, but people are going by a website called WrestleTix, and it's announcing 117,000 total. So
At the end of the day, does it really matter?
it doesn't. Uh,
You know,
but the fact is, they had around 60,000 people both nights. That's a huge crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge crowd, and then you think about how many people were able to watch it on TV.
yeah,
If
that's
I had to buy a $1,500 ticket to sit nosebleed, I'd rather watch it on TV.
Yeah, me
yeah,
too.
me
I
too.
agree with you. I mean, back in my day, the nosebleeds section used to cost like $25.
Yeah.
You
I think
know,
that
front row would
325
cost
was what it was for me
60.
and Dad at WrestleMania 8.
Even we have an AEW coming to Denver pretty soon, so I looked up tickets. Nosebleed is like $200,
What?
Yep,
and I and
Right.
I was like, nah, because I can watch the same thing at home
yep.
because they're free. It's a Wednesday night one, so it's going to be free anyway. So it's like,
That's what
That,
the
that's
that's what the AEW
$200 for
events up
nosebleeds
here.
on a
'Cause
TV show?
we got one here in Milwaukee coming as well, for AEW soon.
yeah, and that might have been the whatever you want to call it, where they hike it a bit, but still, I was amazed at the price. I was like, holy crap, because I was thinking about going.
Well, the same things with WWE events. They were doing a live taping of Raw or SmackDown.
Yeah,
Can't remember which. It was just what was it? Just before the year started, and my daughter's like bragging. Here I am sitting in the front row. She was like 3 rows from the ring. 3 rows back from that guard that goes around the
yeah,
ring.
the real thing. Yeah,
And those tickets, I looked them up. Those tickets were over $1,000.
yeah, it's crazy.
And I mean, she was lucky because her husband worked for the venue,
Yeah,
so they got their tickets at a huge, massive discount. But
nice.
still, I
Okay.
can't believe
Oh,
people are going to take out and pay $1,000 for a ticket to an event and only have maybe pictures and whatever to show for it. I'd
Yeah.
rather spend that $1,000 on a car that'll last me about 3 or 4 years.
yeah,
I just saw the one in Colorado. That's actually a special edition of Dynamite. It's the Fighter Fest.
Yeah, but it's still on a Wednesday,
Yeah,
so
it is. The closest the closest one to me is Detroit. They got two of them back to back, Dynamite and Collision, and then there's one in Illinois, Hoffman Estates. I don't know if that's Chicago area or not.
Don't know nothing about Illinois. Just know how to get there.
Illinois.
Yeah. I'd like to hear you say that.
You got to wait till Nick is here.
I know that's the only time that's good.
Okay. Let's.
Okay. Anyway, attendance.
Okay, so the attendance. So whichever one you want to believe, the 117,000 or the 124,000. WWE is notorious for inflating their numbers, um, especially when it comes to WrestleMania 3, WrestleMania 32, I think it was. Uh,
Yep.
at the Allegiant Stadium, I've driven by that stadium. It is a big freaking building.
It holds 60 some odd thousand in football configurations, so
Yeah,
it wouldn't doubt it if.
they started working on building the stage about what was it, a month prior, Donald?
Yeah, something
yeah.
like.
A month prior, and holy cow, that was an amazing set that they built, and
It was.
even to where fans could sit in that stage.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was that
Yeah,
was super
I
cool.
like I like the whole ramp that they did with all the digital and everything, so they could put all the graphics and everything on the runway part. I love that part.
They had only done that once before that I can remember.
yeah. That was when Randy got chased by the giant sperm.
That's the one.
I'm
Um,
gonna have to look that up because I don't remember that.
Bray Wyatt for the world title.
I think so. It was his graphic, and it looked like I don't know what it was supposed to be. I don't remember, but it looked like a giant sperm on the ground
It
on
was
his
supposed
breast.
to be a snake, but sometimes don't things don't quite
Yeah,
project themselves as they're meant to be.
he's always ever since
Which
he became a superstar, he's always been known as a viper. So there's
Yep.
the snake that would make sense.
which event is that? Because I got to look that up now.
That would have been okay. So Randy
Go
won
to WrestleMania.
17 Rumble, so that would have been 37.
Yeah.
No, 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 no. 7 33. That would have been WrestleMania 33.
All right, I'm going to look that up.
I had to switch over to the old one. I start typing stuff up. Nothing for you, but on this computer, I don't trust it. So
Oh,
I'll have to do
here
it.
we go.
That was my first thought when I saw that graphic, anyway.
I
But
found
I did like the setup for this WrestleMania.
I found a good picture for for their stage.
Is that this one? Oh yeah,
Yeah. So here are the fans. Right. This is now my guess, because it was reported that fans had to be relocated and that they were going to get better seats, and I'm thinking that that's what these fans are, and they were probably originally supposed to be sitting in some of these
Yeah, that
areas.
blackout area that
Yeah.
nobody's sitting.
and
So
that's
I think that's where
probably
these fans came from.
And if I'm
yeah,
not mistaken, that was the same with the ones underneath too on the sides.
yeah,
I'm
and they
I'm
moved
just
them.
happy that the ramp wasn't as high as what they had been the last few years. Because if anybody were to ever take a misstep and fall off the stage or off the ramp, that's a
Yeah,
long drop.
yeah,
That's why I was really concerned when last year Jay speared Jimmy off the ramp,
yep,
and all they had was that little bitty crash pad. If they had misdone that, then somebody would have gotten seriously hurt. So I'm glad that they had that short a ramp for that.
They're learning.
Yeah.
It's a new era. Vince is no longer in charge.
So going into WrestleMania, there was a lot of uncertainty um, with one of the matches.
We had three of them that changed.
Well, Randy didn't
Uh,
even have an opponent.
right.
Yeah,
And I find some of that funny because here they are now giving away all the secrets. Kayfab's been broken, all of that, right?
yep,
Right after Kevin Owens says, I gotta go in for surgery and all of this, he cancels his surgery and he was in the audience at the Hall of Fame.
I thought he had the surgery.
Nope, I read articles where he canceled it.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I
wow,
can
And
see. I
so
can.
I was expecting him to be the one to answer Randy's call, and then that would have thrown him, thrown Randy off because he wasn't prepared for Kevin Owens, and then all of a sudden here's
He
Kevin
showed
Owens.
up.
Right. That's what I was prepared for because I saw him sitting in the audience.
He was all over the place over on the weekend, and I'm thinking for a guy who was supposed to have just had neck surgery, he's looking pretty damn good.
Nope, he didn't have it.
I
same.
wonder if maybe he canceled it so that he could have the surgery after this event.
And then Bailey, I was reading Bailey wasn't really hurt either.
Yeah, I think that was just to flip Becky.
Yep.
Bailey knew about that as early as Thursday because I just watched the interview that she did with Chris Van Vliet, and she was kind of alluding to that. She said, "Yeah, by the time this gets out, they were talking about how um, she wasn't feeling as
Easy.
respected or um, given the props that she should have with some of these big matches." And then she was saying, by the time this gets out, the fans are going to be even more. And then she stopped herself, and Chris tried to get in on that. What are you saying? What are you saying? And then 2 days later, she gets hurt, and then Bailey comes in. Now, granted,
Becky comes in, not Bailey.
now, yeah, now
Right.
seeing what happened on Monday, it makes sense.
Well, yeah.
Still,
Well,
it was at Bailey's expense.
Right.
right. I can see where the storyline went. And like I said, I think I texted you when the match was over with. It's like they won't keep the titles long.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said that.
That,
Less than 24 hours, you've already lost.
yeah,
And I
Just
kind of, when I saw the match at the end of it, I kind of see them hugging. It's like she's fixing to turn. She's fixing to turn on her. And sure enough,
well, I kind of thought
told you
that
she'd be fine.
when you at the beginning, if you watched, here's Paul Heyman coming up with Seth in the vehicle, but Becky didn't get out with him, right?
right?
And all of a sudden, you seen Becky walking with Lyra outside the stadium for Raw. And it's like, I bet you they stopped somewheres and dropped her off first. So that led me believe that they're going to create a stable using Paul Heyman, and she's going to be the first woman that Paul Heyman manages.
And it
New
could be,
Dangerous Alliance.
yeah, and it could be, this whole thing. They're already at the arena. They just use that
So,
because they've been known to, video stuff, way ahead of time and can perceive it as it being live.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Um,
Well, all of those clips that you see at the very beginning of the pay per views, they had shown that at during the countdown. Um,
Well, you could tell if you pay attention. Some of those you could tell. Here it is nighttime, and the videos
yeah,
we were watching were during the day. Middle of broad daylight.
right.
and plus they're all supposed to be there about last I remember. They're all supposed to be there by 12 or 1
yeah.
hours ahead of time.
Yeah,
So
Hell, for that matter, the whole video of Payman and Rollins coming out of the thing could have been filmed, the night
yeah.
before, after the mat, after the or before the matches.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, so both nights have had 7 matches, which is kind of typical now. Um, I can remember a time when they used to have 12, 13, 14 matches at WrestleMania on one night.
Yeah, and they're quick matches too. Less than 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
You
because
know,
back then they also had, you got a special ring announcer, special guest referee, all those celebrities there. They took up time,
I,
when they bring them out.
I do miss those days.
Yeah,
So match number 1, which we all knew was the only match that could start this off.
yep,
Jey Uso challenging Gunther for the World Heavyweight title. This is where Donald and I were at odds because he's saying Jay. I said I wanted it to be Jay, but I think it was going to be Gunther to do it.
well, I said it was going to be Jay because I don't bet against the Samoans. I said that with you on Friday.
Yeah,
Yep.
I
I would have picked Gunther in this situation. I didn't pick. I didn't pick in advance, so I'm just going by what I would have done.
I was out with most of my picks. I was kind of not necessarily yes, I want this person to win, but I'm also looking at the storyline. Where is the storyline going? What is best?
For
What's the best
business.
interest of for business?
Best business
Which
is
way are
Jay
they going to go?
and that
So
Yeet merchandise.
Well, yeah, he can work a crowd better than any wrestler I've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
You
I
know,
won't, and I may may disagree with this, but I don't think his mic skills are where they should be.
They're not.
no,
No.
no, but
Um,
it's that yeet and his song
Yeah.
and getting that whole
Mhm.
audience working up. Even Michael Cole did that.
oh
Started
yeah,
doing it.
Jay had to teach him how to do the yeet thing because he was so out of sync and rhythm with the rest of the fans. He was just going like this. Oh,
so you say Michael Cole couldn't carry a tune? He couldn't dance? His rhythm's off?
If it had a handle on it.
he was like the old man trying to act cool, and everybody could tell it ain't working.
Maybe
Where
that's what
you,
he was supposed to be too. Who knows?
where you got a non-metalhead trying to headbang to a song off tune?
Right.
Yeah, I've seen that before.
Now Jay coming out of the crowd, that was a long walk, even more so than coming down the ramp. That it seemed like it took him forever to get out there to the ring from where he came out of.
I don't know why I'm glitching again.
It's your camera again.
I got to get
Take
another
most.
camera.
It could. That might have been more of a mind game too, coming down that way, taking his sweet time,
Yeah.
making Gunther wait.
Well, Gunther Jay came out to the ring first.
Right, but I mean, it's like he had to wait and back before.
Sit there and
You're
gorilla.
sitting there, got a match, and you're a little anxious sitting there back there. You're gonna have to wait just a little bit more before you come out now.
That's how I would be. Go in there, get my shit done, and get back out.
Well, that's the type of person Gunther seems to be, though, too.
Mhm.
In and out.
Now the match itself, I thought it was a decent enough match. I didn't think there was really anything over the top.
I agree. I expected that match to be one of the best matches of the 2 nights.
Yeah,
Um,
showstopper.
yeah, and it was a
Average.
good match. It could have been a main event at any other pay per view, but it was kind of under par for me for a WrestleMania. Still a good match. I do agree. The only thing I don't like about it was the fact of Gunther tapping out to a sleeper hold. I've never seen anybody tap out to a sleeper.
Yeah,
That's
but that was like the same thing he was doing to. It was, in a way, you got to think about it, though. That was a little bit of revenge on Jay's part.
Yeah.
yeah,
Because
but
that
they should have had him
he
pass
was
out.
doing that to his brother while he was zip tied to the ropes.
Hmm.
He
Yeah,
was
I
choking out
understand.
his brother.
I understand the ending part. I just don't agree with how
You
they
think he could have
actually.
passed out instead of
He
tapped
should
out?
have passed out instead of tapped out. Nobody taps out to a sleeper.
Yeah.
No, I don't, no, they don't.
Not anymore.
And I wonder if that was a improv on his part that he didn't want to be passed out per se.
I'm trying to think of the last time I saw someone pass out from that. Honestly tap out from it. I mean,
Yeah,
or tap out. Yeah.
Well,
you know,
Gunther won a lot of matches by making people pass out with the sleeper last year.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
when did it change from one arm being dropped, or actually from
Used
three
to be
three
three.
drops to one?
Uh,
When did that change?
I don't know. I was thinking that myself about a year ago. Yeah,
Yeah. I think we even talked about it, Jeremy.
I think maybe they're going for a more realistic thing because when you look
UFC.
at the UFC, and it probably happened when UFC and WWE merged, because with the UFC, that's what they do: arm up. If it comes down once, it's done.
Yeah.
Okay, that
That,
makes
that
sense.
is my guess.
So when they merged with TKO was what you're thinking then?
Yeah,
Yeah, that'd make perfect sense too.
Yeah, it does
Yeah.
because I-
Because
I
I
like
remember growing up with this thing, and then the Hulk Hogan.
yeah, and then the Hulk
right.
Hogan doing
Yeah.
his little
Yeah,
no way,
yeah, or
The
whoever.
thing
Yeah,
that I never really liked is that they totally did away with submissions completely. Now it's all tapping out.
yeah.
And that happened in 97. I know exactly when that started. That happened in 97 when Kim Shamrock was brought in.
Yep.
And that was when submissions went to tap out. And I've never liked that since.
Yeah. I don't mind the giving up, but yeah, the tap out part is kind of
Right. Um,
yeah, because you can't tell if they're tapping out or
trying to get to the rope or
yeah,
fight your
trying to
Well,
get.
opponent.
it's like there was when Roman's match, he was in a submission, and he was sitting there, agonizing pain, and he had his hand went down, and you could hear the crowd um,
Two or three. Yeah.
a little bit on the when the hand when he kind of dropped his hand down,
Hmm.
um, and it's like they just kept going. It's like, well, when the tap out, he was just hitting the mat.
there was a match that I remember. Oh, I can't even remember who it was or which event. It was a pay per view, like like '09 or 10, somewhere around in that area. There was a pre show match, and somebody had someone in like an angle lock or something like that, and the guy that was on the floor was reaching for the rope, and he kept slamming the mat trying to get going. The referee took it as a tap out, and then they had a rematch on the pay-per-view itself.
Interesting.
And I have tried to find it. I specifically remember that, but I can't remember who it was or which event it was. I have never been able to find it.
Maybe it got deleted from internet history.
But see, now,
Yeah,
but I
Nothing
liked
gets
it better.
deleted from internet history.
Like Jeremy said, though, I liked it better before they did the tap out because the ref would be down there asking them, "Are you quit? Do you quit? Do
Yeah.
you give up? Do you give up?" And then
Oh, they still
"I give
do
up."
that.
But still, they take that tap automatic, and it's like that shouldn't be taken anymore because they should have to verbally give up,
Yeah.
to the ref, not
well, it's
this.
like the I Quit match.
Because it's like let's say the guy's in one of those holds, and let's say he's like doing this number to his arm trying to wake it up. The ref's going to take that as a tap, you
Yeah.
know
Well, the biggest part of that is making sure the ref knows, hey, this is the ending we're doing. You
right.
know, unless you hear from one of the two guys that, hey, we're
Yeah.
going home, we're taking it home, then you
Well,
stick to the script.
remember last year, it was one of the European events. Jade and someone else. Somebody had Jade in like a sleeper hold or chin lock or something, and it looked like she was tapping out. And Michael Cole even mentioned that it looked like she was tapping out, but that didn't happen.
Yeah. I was gonna say old school. A lot of that when you would tap, it was a signal too to like,
Well,
okay, I'm gonna go this way to get out of it, or whatever. So if you get
Oh,
an older
speaking,
wrestler and like a sleeper and he's tapping, then
Yeah,
oh
because
spe-
if you guys saw it on Monday night, Gunther had Pat McAfee in the sleeper,
yeah,
and he was turning purple.
yeah.
So with
he couldn't breathe at one point. He actually said that I heard that, I can't breathe. Like after they got him and they were walking him down the ramp, he was having problems breathing.
yeah,
He's the one that turned a celeb that turned wrestler that actually does good. And now, obviously, he was an athlete before that too. But
Mhm.
I wonder if they're going to try to do something with Pat and Gunther.
I hope not.
Well, he stood up to him to protect Michael Cole.
Yeah, that was
That
good.
was something, you know.
I was halfway expecting to see Pat and Corey Graves in a match this year.
Yeah, they don't get along too well, don't they?
Not
Maybe that's a bad
Is
mix.
Corey actually cleared?
Yeah, he got cleared like 2 years ago.
Okay. I thought I'd heard that, but I just wanted to make sure.
And, and another person who's been cleared supposedly is Big E.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've heard that.
but he's not. He basically has no interest of getting back in the ring from some of the recent interviews I've seen.
Yeah. And
Well,
Mick.
I would have liked to have seen him come into play in the New Day, even if he's not getting back in the ring, be on the outside guy.
Manager,
Um, yeah, I'd like to seen
something like
that.
that. And that's the other thing. I thought, you know, after what I read, Bo Dallas has finally been cleared as well, and I was half expecting the Wyatt Six to finally show up in full force. Because
Somebody
Alexa
said,
Bliss,
At WrestleMania would have been a great place,
what
but
was that? Alexa Bliss hasn't been seen since the Elimination Chamber. Is that correct, Jeremy?
right.
So that you kind of half expected that when I read that.
I heard she's got some kind of heat on her, but I don't know. I can't remember what about or anything. But
She just came back. How well? No, can't really say that because
could have
any
been something backstage,
time.
you
yeah,
know.
backstage something, not.
Well, to be perfectly honest, there was a lot of things that were expected of WrestleMania this year, and there was a lot of disappointments.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Having some really good matches, but there was still a lot of disappointments. Um, but going back to Jay defeating Gunther,
I'm glad.
I'm not really sure what to expect out of this title reign. I'm curious to see how he's going to carry it. They say that the chase is better than being chased.
Especially for a baby face.
Yeah.
yeah.
I
And,
see a possibility of Solo coming into the mix.
Well, at first I thought Jimmy was going to attack him when he came out
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
I
started
thought that would.
standing all in that all black with the hood on and all of that
mhm.
in the center of the ring, and it's like, what the hell? I
Maybe
honestly expected him to like do that jealousy type brother versus brother turn again.
Yeah.
well, maybe they learned from that debacle last year of their match because their match
Was
was
John?
horrible.
Yeah, that
Oh my god, it was horrible.
it was bad.
Yeah.
No.
So I'm glad it didn't happen, but you know,
They need to
It
pull
gave
him away
that
from
feel
the
good
family.
moment. I would probably say that was probably the best feel good moment of the entire event with Jay winning the title and then Jimmy coming out, and
Oh, okay, yeah. I'll give you that.
I'd say that was probably the best feel
it'll
good.
win a Slammy next year.
Huh?
It'll win a
We'll be the
Slammy
feel
next
good
year.
moment of the year for the Slammy next year. Yep.
It wasn't quite the emotional thing on the Cody ending last year, but it was pretty close. It was good. I'm glad that Jay got it. Now let's just see what he does with it.
Yeah, that's the thing.
If he can
Get
stay
it.
sober long enough.
I get the celebration. I honestly do, but yeah,
We,
Let's celebrate after
Yeah,
the pre-show or
exactly.
the post-show.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. But
I think as long as he waits and does it after the matches, he'll be good. Holy cow! We're 46 minutes into the thing. We're just now getting into match number two. Match number two: War Raiders versus the New Day. I was so glad to see this match, and especially glad to see Kofi and Xavier featured on WrestleMania because they don't get that very often.
they deserve
Um,
Well, they just turned heel too after that big thing with Big
yes,
E and all.
it. Yeah.
You know.
and I was so hoping to see something of Big E coming out, but that was disappointment number one.
Well,
Hmm.
I kind of knew that wasn't going to happen, so I wasn't disappointed. You
Yeah,
know.
Would have been
but
cool.
I thought it was a decent match for what it was. Um, it kind of reminded me of like WrestleMania 5, where you had the Rockers taking on the Twin Towers.
The little versus big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but in this case, it was the little guys that won, and honestly, I think they deserve it, especially with what they've been doing the last few months. And Xavier, I don't think has ever really had a defining moment for WrestleMania, except for that stunner that he got like 10 years ago. But he got a big win. He got the pin, so I think that was a pretty good WrestleMania moment for him to have.
Who?
um, any thoughts on that match?
I
I
thought it was
actually
a
missed
good
that
solid
match
match.
that way, so
It's a good
I
solid
called that
match.
one.
Yeah, I called that one. I'll get you my at both nights. I'm at 10-4. I'm picking winners and all. That match was pretty good. You know, the War Raiders, the size that they are,
They could
it
move.
baffles me. A man that large coming off the dang, you know,
yeah,
top.
they're good.
I
They
I know he should not be able to move like that.
They were fun to watch in the Independence and all that back before they got WWE moved. Move set.
Well, he jump off the top rope to the floor on the New Day?
I think.
I don't remember. I remember the first one he did. It looked like he slipped a little bit and almost didn't get it full clear.
Sorry.
I saw a lot of those mistakes, missteps.
Yeah.
It's really good for the War Raiders to be in WrestleMania, especially considering both of them had just had neck surgery,
Yeah.
and it was being said for a little bit that they would never be able to come back.
Right.
Well, let's see. They said that about Shawn Michaels. They said that about Edge after neck surgery. They said that. They said that about a lot of wrestlers. It's all about the self determination and
Right, but look at how
listening
long
to
they were
doctor's
gone.
advice and healing properly.
Yeah,
Doing the
And it depends
rehab.
on the next surgery.
Well, you look at Stone Cold. You know, Stone Cold with the major neck injury. You know, temporarily paralyzed him for a little bit in the ring, and he still come back and did what he did.
yeah. He he should not have been able to continue on that match. But
Kurt Angle won a broken gold medal.
Gold medal, yeah,
Yeah,
in the Olympics with a
with
broken
a
neck.
freaking broken neck.
Yep.
yeah,
Legit. I mean that's legit. Whether
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, that probably should have killed him when he was doing that.
Yeah. All power, but that led to all his drug and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Another story, another time.
So the next match you got Jade Cargill versus Naomi. Um, I
Interesting.
thought Jade improved quite a bit from how she was last year. Um, I thought it was a really good match, considering how limited I think Jade still is.
Hmm.
Very limited.
Base it on if everybody's on the same level. Not looking at Jade's how far she's come, but base it on the current roster. I've got my matches kind of ranked what I think is the best to the worst. Decent match, but I've got it at the bottom of the list on my count.
It reminded me of one of Jade's AEW matches, quite honestly. Just kind of
And
there, and it happened, and there were some moments and some spots, but
and the reason I say that is because it seemed like the timing was off on a bunch of different spots where
yeah,
one of the wrestlers was standing there waiting for the next move, like off the turnbuckle. Jade is sitting there just like seemed like forever waiting for Naomi to get to the top rope and jump off.
like
I was like,
do it, come on.
yeah, yeah, hurry up, and looking up at her, doing
And
this number and looking like, oh, come on. And
I
that
don't
has
know
to
the
do with,
exact spot, but some of that could be on Jade, and like she gets up too quick because I'm the
right,
powerhouse, so let me get up instead of letting Naomi climb to the top and you struggling to get up, and then oh here comes the cross body or whatever.
right.
Well,
And
she
that I think that to do with, being there and still being, I won't say new, but, kind of
Yeah,
new.
let's see here. I'm looking Jade up. Um,
and she's been around 5 or 6 years now, 7 total, not just WWE, but total maybe.
Right.
Yeah, I used to see her every now and then on AEW.
Yeah, she was a champion for like a year, the TBS women's.
so this is Jade's second match of the year.
Okay, yeah,
Um,
she's at Royal Rumble.
no, she was not.
No, I was trying to think. I saw her somewhere before, and then she just like disappeared.
Well, she came in.
He
She
made her
came in at
return
the
at the
elimination
Elimination
chamber,
Chamber.
and then
Yeah,
had a match with Liv, but that was a month ago. And then she doesn't have another match until with Naomi. She had been with the WWE.
got thrown off the chair. Or whatever.
Let's see here. She's only had 49 matches total in the almost 2 years that she's been with the WWE.
Oh, okay. Well, that ain't horrible. That ain't the best, but
Right.
How,
Well,
that's
how much?
that's a couple matches a month.
she also had 4 months off.
Yeah,
And in those 4 months, hopefully you know, working on your skill, working on your craft.
Training and learning.
I think she did
Right.
because she did look like she was doing better.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
I
Uh,
agree. I mean, it wasn't, because you ain't got nobody else to hold you up. You ain't got Bianca there to help you out. It's just you and Naomi.
well, Jay did come out with a new move that I thought was really good when she had Naomi on her shoulders, and then she did this
Oh, the
forward
spinning.
air turnaround and power bomber.
I did like that. You could tell they were like, okay, ready, let's do it. you could see that in it, but yeah, I did like it. I did like it.
Is that the one? It may have been a different one where she power bombed her and almost landed Naomi on her head.
I'm not sure. I remember the move. I don't remember if that happened or not.
It was
There was one where Naomi was
finish. It was the move right before she did her finish to end the match.
Yeah,
okay. There was one where she did it, and it looked like Naomi almost landed on her head, and she kind of folded her up with a pin. Of course, she kicked out.
yeah.
Um, When it looked, I was like, oh my god, that could have been bad.
Yeah, I have to look
I
at that.
don't
I'm
remember
not sure.
that one.
I remember the movie. I thought that's kind of cool, but I also was like, okay, you can tell they're like trying to get the timing down too. When she had her up on her shoulders, and which you got to do that. You don't want
Yeah,
to, but
Yeah, I don't remember specifically. I just remember by the end of that match thinking Jade's gotten a lot better.
I'll give you that. She's gotten better.
I
Yeah.
agree.
The next match I was really looking forward to LA Knight and Jacob Fatu for the United States
The
title.
right person won that one.
Called that one too.
Yeah, I knew that was happening.
Yeah. It was a shoe in for that one.
Well, they finally let him loose.
Yeah,
Samoan werewolf. I mean, I thought it was kind of I don't know, weird that they had him going around saying "I love you, Solo. I love you." Remember when he was doing that? I thought that was like, come on, what a waste.
He was
Have
so
him
fun to
run
watch.
around
It was
Solo,
funny though.
Solo. I love you, Solo.
It was funny.
He was
Yeah,
fun to
it
watch
was
in
funny,
MLW.
but it, it was a waste
did,
of talent.
did you all hear him? I guess talking to a cameraman or somebody about when he went out into the crowd. It's like this way. It was after the match.
Huh. I missed it, but that don't mean nothing.
Yeah,
That was a
I thought it
weird
was
day. So
kind of.
both days were weird. So
Well, this was after the match. He was getting ready to leave, and
The only one that I know of was when a cameraman told Dominic to run back into the ring.
yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
Dominic, oh crap. Okay.
I didn't hear that one.
But what I thought was really cool was when Haku came out and congratulated him. Well, I
Yeah.
thought that was cool as hell.
Yeah.
Really happy with Jacob Fatu winning the title. Now it's like, okay, he is. They're going to shoot him straight up.
He was a beast. He was a beast when I used to watch him in the Indies and on MLW and all that. So I want him to be that beast mode again. I don't want the I love you and I love you stuff like you were talking about, Joe. And
Yeah, it's like he's not part of that team. They should have never put him in. I understand why they did it, okay, but
He had to have some kind of introduction.
right.
Right.
I understand why they did it, but to have him follow Solo around like that for as long as they did, they needed to break him loose. And rumor has it there's another Samoan on his way soon, hopefully.
Godzilla.
And they're planning on putting him with Jacob later as like a new
But the
generation
Wild Samoans,
of Wild Samoans.
that would be good.
I think it's
You
There's
Zilla.
know,
two of them actually. One's already signed with the WWE. He's like 6'8" or 6'9".
Was that
Really,
Zilla?
really,
Is
huh?
that
well,
how
they both already
No, not
signed.
Zilla. He's the other one that I'm talking about.
There's
This
two
one,
of them that are already signed, but they haven't arrived on like NXT.
I
They're
haven't
still
seen him yet.
probably at the training center.
yeah, he's supposed to be with NXT. It's a weird name. Is like Hakulo or something like that.
Yeah,
Or Kilo?
yeah.
I think
But
that's what he's saying.
there was one that was getting trained by specifically by Booker T.
And then
That
there's
That,
was they were
that's
Zilla.
Zilla. That's Zilla.
That's
That's the
Zilla,
one
yeah.
they have plans to put with Jacob for like rebirth of the Wild Samoans.
And
Uh,
that'd be
it would be cool to see Wild Samoans again. Um, but I see nothing but big things with Jacob. I agree with Michael Cole saying that he is a future WrestleMania main eventer. Um, I
Hall of
can
Famer too.
I can also see him being one of the Royal Rumble winners.
Yep.
yeah. That
Yeah.
makes him champion for WrestleMania. Hey.
And speaking of Royal Rumble winners, that also now makes Jay not only the fourth member of the Samoan family to win the Rumble, but he kept the track going by winning the title the year that he wins the Rumble because all the rest of them, I think all the rest of them did. Um, I'll have to I'll have to go back and check on the Rock.
Now you could tell that people are getting behind Jacob also.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Crowd wise.
Okay, the Rock did not win the year that he won the Rumble.
The final boss?
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
no.
Yoko won the title after he won the Rumble. The Rock did not win the. That was actually when they turned it into the Fatal Four Way. Triple H won that match, but the Rock's by that time had already been the world champion anyway.
Yeah.
Um, then Roman. Oh, Roman did not win the title. Okay, that was when he was against Brock Lesnar. Okay, so that makes Jay the second member of the Samoan family to win the title after winning the Royal Rumble. Wow.
Uh-oh.
There goes Donald. So, okay.
Next.
So it's safe to say we're going to be seeing some big things from Jacob. We're
Oh,
already seeing
definitely.
it. Yes.
He's gonna have a good U.S. title run.
How old is he? Just curious.
He is 33.
Okay. So he's got some time on him. Okay.
Oh, he's got a lot of time.
I just wasn't sure which side of. I knew he was 30. I just wasn't sure if he was a younger or an older 30. So,
Yeah.
okay, good.
So the next 10 years is going to be a
Fat two time.
nice big run for him. So the next match, this one's a fun one. El Grande Americano.
Woo! Thank you.
Yeah. No. Gracias.
That's right. Gracias. That's
Bad
right.
Gable.
Um, was originally supposed to take on Rey Mysterio, but Ray ended up having a pulled groin on the night before.
Now, was that legit, or is that another one where they just wanted to put this other
No,
guy?
that was an actual injury
Yeah.
because of like a misstep type thing.
Okay.
He landed wrong.
Okay. I did not see the night before stuff or hardly anything the week
Yeah,
after.
one of the Creed brothers grabbed his foot and yanked him out of the ring,
And
and he yanked him just a little too hard, and that's what pulled his groin.
Right.
fair. Okay.
So he ended up having to get replaced by another Ray Phoenix,
Yes.
who literally just debuted not even a month prior. Um,
Yeah. Well, he got his WrestleMania debut, his first WrestleMania, like real quick.
yeah,
Yeah.
less than a month after he signed. Who does that?
Wow.
You
Not
know,
many.
I don't
that
think
was
anyone
a,
ever
but
has.
that was an amazing way to showcase his talent.
Yeah. Phoenix is good.
I can't wait for him and his brother to go at it. I mean, they're going to drag out that storyline, but there's a dream match in the works where Ray Phoenix versus Penta, mask for mask, and they're brothers. So
They're also a hell of a tag team for a long time. So
yeah, but this is a dream match, and they wanted to do it in WWE. So first comes Penta, and then his brother follows later,
yeah.
and they'll work up to it. But if you notice, one's on Raw and one's on SmackDown.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
I would like to see them as a team first before
yeah,
they start
yeah,
doing
I
that.
would. I mean,
AEW had their contracts, and that's
I
why.
didn't get to see them as a team. I've only always saw that. I don't watch ADW too often, but when I do, I remember some of the matches.
Yeah, same. Only when I hear or see someone good's going to be on there or something catches my eye, then I'll go and watch it. But different program. We're talking about
Well,
Mania.
I'm a channel flipper, so
Yeah,
I
A-
I
keep
am.
seeing commercials.
Yep.
AEW has really fumbled the ball on a lot of their wrestlers.
Yeah.
Well,
Pantera,
that's why they're coming back or showing up over at WD because Vince is gone and they gotta people are that are here now are saying, oh, it's a much better work environment now that Triple H is in charge.
CM Punk's the biggest one.
Right. Well,
Yep.
he said, when he left, he said, "You'll never see me here back ever." And he kept insisting that while he was gone. In interviews, he was never going to come back to WWE. But once Vince was gone, and once that stuff started happening, you know, he came back.
He came back, especially after having bad experiences at AEW himself.
Yeah, well, didn't he get let go?
He
Because
said he quit.
what was
Yeah.
what was the con that works over there? It's Nick Khan over at WWE.
Tony.
Tony Khan.
Tony.
Yeah, he was like some kind of conflict in Tony Khan's office.
Yeah.
With
Every time I see an interview with Tony or when he does his media scrums, I keep thinking this is not the kind of guy that I would want running an organization.
he is seriously just a fanboy whose daddy has a ton of money. That's all he is.
Yeah.
Are those
He's
two
playing
cons
fantasy
related?
wrestling.
Are those two
He's playing
cons related?
WW 25 wrestling is all he's doing.
Are Tony and Nick related?
No.
They say no, but
Well, I was just wondering, because I heard a lot of different stories, but they said I heard the reason that it's because of the two Khan brothers or whatever they called them. They said that there's like a feud there, a personal feud, and that's why WWE and AEW will never collaborate.
they could be somethings. But I've heard they're not brothers, but they could be related somehow.
You know,
Tony's
and
dad owns the
see,
Jaguar.
that's sad though that they'll never collaborate because they've got Dean Ambrose over there, and that would have been like something cool to see.
Yeah, the
Like
Shield
Dean
thing.
Ambrose, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins again as the Shield.
Yeah, I would love to see that again.
Like a Shield reunion, but you'll never see it because Dean Ambrose is quite happy where he's at right now.
I just did a search. It says that Tony and Nick are not related, but there has to be some kind of relation, like maybe far down the line, where maybe they're distant cousins.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Second or third
Either
cousins.
way, there's a personal feud between the two of them, from what I understand, and that's why AEW and WWE will never collaborate.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's why Sting wasn't there to induct Luger. And
Yep. Yeah, because Luger really wanted Sting to induct him into the Hall of Fame, and one of them said no. It's
Tony
not
Tony
going to
said
happen.
no.
Tony didn't. No, Nick didn't even reach out.
Yeah, see,
Uh,
so it's like,
I heard Tony said no too. He's like, I wouldn't
but
have done
but
it either.
yet but
So
yet they got this thing with what is that, TNA,
yeah,
which is nice. It's just too bad they can't collaborate with AEW because I could see some great things happening.
Oh, great things have been happening because of that.
But
Um, but but yeah, it's they're probably related, but way, 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 way down the line at some point.
Yeah,
Um,
well, I just know what I read and heard.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Same. And
but
that's all we can do until somebody talks to him.
yeah,
And
but I was really glad to see Chad Gable finally get a singles match
yeah,
at WrestleMania. He has more than earned it, and
But
and
it
based
wasn't
on,
under the name Chad Gable.
well, that's
I
true.
didn't even know that was Chad Gable. Okay, come on.
Well, everybody knows it. I mean,
I'm
he's the
totally
only
joking.
person that makes a living impersonating somebody else in the
There-
wrestling world.
There's a lot of people out there trying to convince others that El Grande Americano is actually Omos.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah,
Or
right.
That's
almost is the one I've seen a lot of, but I've seen other people too. But
yeah,
yeah,
they're coming out with some really, really ridiculous things.
Well,
I was so happy to see Chad Gable finally get his singles match.
yeah,
well,
yeah,
he needs to find himself. In order for Chad Gable to get better, he needs to find himself, not sit there and impersonate his mentor or the person that trained him. You know, because every time I watch him wrestle, I think Kurt Angle.
Yeah,
yeah.
You
I
know,
mean,
he's got to find his own identity. And when and that what was that one? What was the one before he started impersonating Chad so much or Kurt so much? He had a something G or whatever it
Shorty
was.
G.
Yeah,
well, that was a
that
whole.
was kind of yeah, that was stupid in so many ways. It
I
just
liked him with Jason Jordan. I liked him as that tag team.
yeah, they
I
were
can't
good
remember the
then.
tag team. American
But
Alpha or
you know, he needs to find his own identity instead of stealing somebody else's.
yeah, and
Well,
he can
I,
only do what he's told. But
I do like what he's got going with American Made. I did like American Alpha,
yeah,
Alpha, whatever it's
whatever they were, yeah,
I did like that because it was finally showcasing not only um, Akira, finally getting him on TV, but they're still not giving him a real chance to shine. And this also gave Maxine a chance to get exposure and also get better because if like I have only seen her just a handful of times. Um, if you see her in the 2024 Royal Rumble, you can see there was a lot that she needed to work on. If
yeah.
you saw her at the Rumble this year, holy shit!
Just get rid of that reverse
That
bull worm thing, and I think it would be a whole lot better.
yeah. In regards to Chris Benoit, he'll never get into the Hall of Fame, and it's sad too with what happened, what he did, because his career more than warrants a Hall of Fame
Well,
induction.
yeah, he and Dean Malenko were some of the best cruiserweights of that time.
Yeah, and it's just sad the way everything went the way that it did because he'll never get put into the Hall of Fame.
Well, it happens. That was all Vince McMahon, you know.
Well,
I've been watched
Felt
conspiracy
well,
theories.
think about it. Vince
Interesting.
McMahon, after that whole situation, he felt embarrassed. They come out and they said one thing, and then the next thing you know, they find out the truth of what really happened, and they're
yeah,
like, erasing his name from everything.
Yeah.
Because even so I think it was just Vince McMahon and his ego being embarrassed over that situation because he made a grave error when he was like kind of celebrating the yeah.
I can't say that I blame him in that regard.
Well, no, but you can't hold that kind of grudge forever because All right, yeah, what he did was wrong. We all know that. You
Yeah,
can't
Well,
punish him for it because he's gone too. He killed himself along with his son and his wife.
right.
Right,
And it's because of that. That's why they will never put him in the Hall of
right.
Fame because everybody's going to say, "Oh, well, you're celebrating a child killer." I
Yeah,
get, and
I get
that's
it,
why I
but
say it's unfortunate because I enjoyed the hell out of Chris.
Yeah,
him and Dean Malenko made a great tag team, and they had some of the greatest matches against each other as well.
the no was wonderful.
Because they were so evenly matched. Dean Malenko and his thousand moves, man of a thousand moves, and then
Jericho had 1,001.
yeah,
I was
but
just
I'm just saying, they were so evenly matched that they had some really awesome matches. They put on a great
They
show
really
together.
did. Yeah. All kidding aside, they had awesome matches.
I think everybody can agree, personal situations aside, Chris Benoit was one of the very best to ever get into the ring.
Yep.
I don't think anybody can ever truly dispute that. So getting back to the match, I like I said, I am so happy to see um, Chad Gable get his WrestleMania match. He got the win. Now, I expected him to win when he was against Rey Mysterio. And then when Rey Phoenix came in, I thought, no, there's no way that he's going to lose this soon into his thing. So I was expecting him to win. And then seeing Chad get the win, oh, well,
I
okay.
was expecting the mask to come off.
I was
me
too.
too.
I was expecting Ray Phoenix, or especially when it was Rey Mysterio, to go after that mask and prove that it's Chad Gable, but it never happened.
That's coming.
That'll happen.
Well,
Probably.
they made
That's
it look
coming.
good. What was it? Chad Gable was interviewing, and you saw a guy wearing that mask walk
I
in.
remember that one. Yep.
That could have been one of his flunkies or just some cameraman doing it for, maybe.
Who to say that wasn't Ray Phoenix himself? Because he does kind of look like him a little bit.
It's probably like they do the security guards. It's
Yeah, it was somebody that was built
NXT
about the
wrestler.
same height of Chad Gable so that they could make it look good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I, something may come to a head at that Worlds Collide thing that's coming up in June.
that would be a good place to do it.
Oh, and now they're partnered with AAA too. So who knows? I mean,
Well,
they could
they
do some
bought
stuff.
Triple A.
Yeah, they
Well, yeah,
bought
that's what I mean. That's what
AAA.
I mean.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, but
can't
they
wait.
got AAA under their belt, so they could use all kinds of lucha crap and all.
Oh, I
And
can't
I don't mean
wait.
crap in a
It's
bad
going to
way.
be
But
very
they can,
interesting.
yeah, they can make it very interesting now.
I wouldn't mind seeing an all lucha rumble match.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
That could go on for hours.
Probably.
That could literally be a pay per view by itself. You're right, Joe. That could.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, those luchas are. I mean, look at what they can do,
They're just
and
a
they get
different
better.
breed. They're
I
just a
mean,
different breed of wrestlers, and it's so nice that we have already had a lot of Mexican wrestlers in WWE now, and now they just bought AAA. Holy crap! Think of the crossovers we can have now.
yep. And those luchas, there's something to watch.
Yeah, they're interesting.
I mean, you think like our HBK was good at in the Royal Rumbles, where his feet didn't hit he goes over the top rope and his feet, he somehow manages,
Yep.
these luchas,
Kofi
and
style.
they're gonna make it look like babies play.
Hmm.
Yes.
When it comes to their feet hitting the floor, because they got so many ways to avoid that, and a lot of them are small, like Mysterio. Holy shit, the things we're gonna see.
Just yesterday, speaking of the athletic systems of some of these wrestlers, I just yesterday I was watching a match with of Lenny Poffo,
Wow. Nice.
and this
Who was
was
Lenny Poffo?
huh?
You're talking about Randy Savage's brother.
Yeah.
Hmm. The
So
genius.
so
Yeah,
this
but they
match
called
that I
him
saw
Mean
of
Manny
his had
Poffo.
to have been was early '80s,
Yeah.
taking on some some nobody, and the stuff that he did then we never saw until guys like Ricky Steamboat or Shawn Michaels did. Lanny Poffo was doing a long before Skin the Cat,
Hit the moonsault.
the moonsault. He was outside the ring and then jumping on the rope like what AJ Styles does, but doing the body splash. Something. Holy cow! He was doing this stuff before
Yeah, he was a
anyone
bit of
else.
a he was a bit of an underrated wrestler back then.
Very underrated.
You know,
Especially
I
once
don't.
he hit WWF. He was really,
You
really.
kind of wonder if he was just in there for his brother's sake, or if he really wanted to be a wrestler or not. Because it's
He
like,
actually wrestled before his brothers, so
but it's like his heart wasn't in it. He didn't have passion. He could put on a good show, but his genius character and some of these characters weren't as good as they could have been.
He's
I
one. He's one of the very few that has a win over Hulk Hogan.
yeah.
Hulk Hogan can just bite me.
Yeah.
I regret the day I thought he was something special, especially when I saw him in person. I was like on my way to work, and the guy gets out of this car in the small little bitty convertible, gets out of this car, and it's got California plates and everything, and out gets this big guy, and I'm looking, and I realized, when he said something to me, "What are you looking at?" I realized it was Hulk Hogan, right? But I was late to work. I had to get to work and stuff. But anyway, he was there to see there was a very famous attorney that lived, and he had his lived not too far from the Madison area, but he had his office right there in downtown Madison, and he was going to see this famous attorney, and it's like, yeah. But I thought, oh, I got to work and I was bragging, I just met Hulk Hogan and all this, saw Hulk Hogan and all this, and it's like, now I look back on it and it's like, there were
But
going to be a lot of wrestlers to run into.
even with all of that, there is no WrestleMania without Hulk Hogan. I
I
think
I get that, but he got to the point where he was one of them that was responsible for ruining the WCW and Monday Night Wars and stuff like that because he had total 100% creative control over his character.
The finger
And,
poke of doom,
and
brother.
you give that a match with his ego. If he didn't want to drop that belt, he didn't have to. Look, if it
I
was,
wouldn't want to either.
a lot of that stuff happened because him Bischoff being in the bed together and all of that. Look, for example, look at the worst one of those worst things, the finger poke of doom.
Oh, that was terrible.
Or Jeff
Good
Jarrett.
match for squad.
The thing that happened with Jeff Jarrett and Hogan, where you
Yeah,
know, it's just that's because that egomaniac. I was happy when the Netflix preview happened and they booed him to the point where he walked out and he hasn't shown his face since.
Well, because in recent years, with the way things are now, you got a lot of interviews and things like that with past wrestlers talking about, what kind of a self-centered person he was. Hogan was out for Hogan. That was
Yep,
it.
that was it.
Um,
he
so
was up on top, and he even said he would do whatever it took to stay on top.
Yep.
right.
I mean, he's got a beef where I don't think there was a future coming up, or it was one of the ones in the past that they did recently, the Saturday Night Main Event, and they were concerned about Hogan appearing on it because Ventura still got a beef with him.
It was the Saturday night that like 2 weeks after that Netflix premiere. So he was
Yeah,
supposed to appear on that one, and then he got taken out because of what happened um, on Raw.
right.
Yeah, so that not just because of Ventura, but
No, but no, they were worried about him and Ventura, you know,
yeah,
being in the same building.
and that in itself was 40 years ago. That literally is, well, it happened in '86, but Jesse didn't find out until '90 or '91.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Tiffany Stratton versus Charlotte Flair.
Okay. I'll admit I thought Flair was going to win this one. I wanted Tiffany to, but
I
yeah,
figured Tiffany was going to win.
I
So did I.
couldn't make a decision on this one here. It was too close to call.
I figured it was going to be Tiffany. That was my call. But the thing was, that's another match that I saw a few mistakes in, especially from Charlotte. There was some like ring rust type thing where she had a misstep here and there, foot's falling off the rope here and there when it shouldn't have.
I was concerned about that knee brace because that knee brace didn't look like it was
yeah.
Half,
very.
half, halfway through the match, it had come loose.
I don't know how it came loose. I didn't notice it until Jeremy said something, and then I kept looking. I was like, God, that thing looks like it's
Hanging
loose.
out.
Looked like it
Yeah.
was all ready to come off at one point.
Yeah, at one point it looked like it was like the top part was all the way off. It looked like to me at one point.
Yeah, and I wonder if maybe that knee brace was the reason that Tiffany had that welt on her forehead.
It might have been.
Might have been.
Yeah, because she had that welt, and then she had something wrong with her teeth.
And I think she busted her lip open
I
too.
noticed when she went backstage with the thing she pointed at her mouth in the post press conference thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, she came out with perfect teeth again. So she either has like veneers or something.
Yeah.
It may have been it may have been like, all right, put that in,
Yep.
real quick.
That was a screenshot moment right there.
Yeah.
It was. It truly was. Rewind that. Just
Yeah, because you froze for a couple seconds just
it
as she
sounds
did.
like that.
Yeah, that was a screenshot moment right there.
As
Well,
far as
I
the
think
match goes,
Tiffany's improved a lot, so she
yeah.
deserved the win.
Yeah, no, she absolutely did, and I was hoping she would. I just figured it would be Flair because Flair, you know.
I uh, I thought it was a really good match. I've got it rated as the second
Oh,
number
nice.
two match, and it was a very hard decision between that one, Ellie and Jacob Fatu, and crazy it may sound, uh, but Ray and El Americano. I mean, it was a tough decision to rate which one of those three matches was going to be my second pick because they were all three really good matches. Um,
All in all, that whole night was really, really good. Um, I'm glad that Tiffany got the win because there comes a point where you need to have the younger talent to be
Yep,
pushed.
exactly.
And Charlotte is doing that. She lost to Tiffany 2 years ago. She lost to Rhea. That right there, to me, is the best women's match I have ever seen.
Well, see, like what like I said over WrestleMania weekend, I watched a lot of the little shows here and there, like Pat McAfee's show and stuff. But I don't know who it was. I think it was Triple H when they were interviewing him, that or somebody. It was one of them. Maybe it was CM Punk. But it's like it's not like back in 10, 20 years ago where it was very cutthroat business, It's more like a family type thing where everybody's looking out for everybody back there. They're working together, making sure it's a safe environment. Now, back then you had no friends, and it all came up because of CM Punk saying, "I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to make money." So it all came up from that.
Yeah.
That's how that whole conversation came up in the interview.
We got
Yeah.
somebody in the audience who was at Mania.
Chief.
I mean,
Awesome.
being in that crowd, wow, I can't even imagine. I I remember being at WrestleMania 8,
Wow, that's
but
cool.
10-year-old Jeremy. No, I'm
I know. And I'm,
kidding.
and I'm the youngest one of this bunch.
Right.
Really?
Um, but the reaction of the people at WrestleMania 8
I
is
don't buy
nowhere
that.
near what we're seeing today. But having said that, I would have loved to have been in the audience for WrestleMania 3 because that place exploded when Hogan slammed Andre.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, he would have never done it if Andre didn't want him to.
That's true.
Right.
You
He's
know,
done a lot of wrestling moves, though.
when it comes to Andre, he had the real strength. He had to be careful because he could have easily hurt them wrestlers at any given time if he lost his temper. Just like Big Show, you know. That's why they tried to book him as Big Show as Andre's son because they had the
Hmm.
same condition.
And
The
that
only
was
difference,
believable for a time.
the only difference is Big Show had that condition treated. When the option was given to Andre, he refused.
Yeah. And I keep thinking, what kind of career could Andre have had if he did do that?
Yeah, he might
And,
have had a longer career and lived longer. I mean, at the end there, he was in some extreme pain
mhm.
when he get in the ring, and
he
it's
he
it,
might even still be alive today. But having said that, how would the Hall of Fame look now? Because the Hall of Fame was created specifically because of his death.
yeah, and then you would and you also got the Andre Giant Battle Royal.
Oh, they had screwed that match up.
Who won that?
Huh?
Who won the battle royal this year?
Carmelo Hayes.
Oh, okay.
I
Carmelo Hayes.
I wasn't even sure they were going to have that this year. I never heard
You
a
never hear,
single thing
yeah, it's
about it.
like it
Yeah,
was
I didn't hear
part of
anything about it. So I
SmackDown.
didn't bother searching for it.
Friday, when you and I were doing the show Friday, my wife was in the other room watching SmackDown, and she came in and said that they were doing that.
And
Oh,
that was the first time I heard anything about that match.
That was the first time I heard anything of it.
Yeah. And oh, they screwed that one up so
Because she
much
came
because
in
that
telling me
needs to
Carmelo
be
Hayes won the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. It's like, what?
yeah. That match needs to be in Mania. Um,
Yeah, part of the kickoff show of Mania.
no, not even kickoff. Let that be the opener for one of
Oh,
the
yeah, for day one.
or day two. I don't think it. Well, I don't think it
day
really
three.
matters.
Well, yeah,
No.
but it should be part of, yeah, but it should be part of Mania.
It should be yes,
But they'll tell you, oh well, it was part of Mania. It was part of WrestleMania weekend
and
because
then
it was on SmackDown.
and
If
then
it's not
yeah,
on the
the women's
It's
battle
not
royal
part
and
of it.
got such a terrible backlash because of who they named it after.
Yeah.
They never did that again, which they should, because there are so many people on the roster that could just even if you don't have a storyline at the moment, get in the battle royal, get some exposure, so you can say, "Hey, I actually wrestled at WrestleMania."
Yeah, and those Royal Rumbles and those types of matches, there used to be a lot more surprises because they only knew maybe like 10 of the combatants, and then the rest of them were surprises. They should go back to that too, you know?
Yeah,
I,
we've talked about that before about not even announcing the order.
yeah,
Right.
just 1 year, don't announce a single person.
Yeah, and just have it all a surprise as they come out
Yeah.
and you hear their entrance music. You know,
It-
with the collaboration with AAA, they bought AAA out. They collaborate with TNA. They've got NXT. They've got that LFG. I mean, you got so much talent that you could put into that match
All
that could shock that could create a shock value. Not to
supposedly
mention
some in
not to
Japan
mention
too.
all these wrestlers that are getting put under legend contracts.
mhm.
You know,
I wouldn't mind seeing something similar to the gimmick battle royal that they did at WrestleMania 17. That was so much fun to watch.
So a little off topic, but could they do like a TNA did a few years ago with the World Cup? You think that'd be kind of cool? Where we had like Team USA, Team Mexico, and instead of doing Japan, Team.
No,
I don't know what it ever led to. I didn't watch the whole thing ever, but
I don't know anything about that one.
they just did like a team. It was like everybody from Mexico would wrestle. It was just kind of a tournament thing, and then
Oh, like a factions tournament?
kind of, but it was for the different countries. So they had like Team Canada, Team USA, Team Mexico, Team Japan, whatever.
It sounds similar to what WCW did at one of the Starcades, where they had Team WCW and Team Japan.
Yeah, yeah, very similar, except they just had all the different countries represented instead.
Well, with what they're doing, they could very
Yeah,
well.
that's what I'm saying because I heard
yeah,
something
more
about they're
balance.
trying to get one of the Japanese promotions too. So, and then of course, like I can't think of a wrestler. Sheamus could be like Team Ireland, and of course he'd have to
Okay.
have a team, but
Well,
From
you got quite a
Ireland, you
few
got
of them.
people from Ireland there.
yeah,
You got quite a few wrestlers from Ireland.
yeah. I'm
You
just using
know,
that as an example.
and then you got the one from Scotland.
Yeah, and all over. But anyway, just another. Sorry, we got to bounce on to the next match or something soon, but because we're already an hour and 40 in.
Yeah, we're not even done with night one yet. Okay, moving on. The main event for WrestleMania night one. Okay,
Do
why,
me a
why
favor.
did my thing just all of a sudden my phone just started taking voice notes? I don't know what happened there. Um, the main event for night one of WrestleMania: CM
That
Punk,
was my first mistake.
Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns.
I did not see any of that coming. I called that one to Roman to win because I said don't bet against the Samoans.
It,
I think I told you Seth Jeremy is who I thought was going to win.
as soon as I could not decide who I thought was what the hell. Oh, okay, that was weird. All of a sudden, this ad block plus had been updated and
Be
took
right
over my
back.
entire screen.
Wow.
Okay,
By Donald, by Joe. Dang.
what the hell's going on here?
Hi,
Well,
Donald.
Having
so
crazy stuff going
at first, I could not decide who was going to win that match until Seth Rollins told Paul Heyman, "Now you owe me a favor." And so right there, that took. Okay, Seth's going to win, and Paul is going to go with him. That he's going to turn on Roman and CM Punk. I knew that from that moment. That's what was going to happen. But until then, I had no clue what was going to happen.
It
I
was a better
figured
match than I thought it was going to be.
I figured CM Punk was going to wind up pulling the win just because they're pushing so much on him his WrestleMania
Moment,
moment.
main
That's
event.
but then when when he crossed CM Punk, I was like, oh shit, he's fixing to cross Roman too.
I,
There, there is a clip that I just saw last night at the beginning of that match before the bell rang. Somebody had a camera on CM Punk, and he was just looking over the crowd, and he mouthed it's like, "I did it. I finally did it," or something like that.
Yeah, you got to WrestleMania and main event.
Yes. So I'm really glad for him that he finally got that.
now I can stop crying.
Huh?
Now you can stop
Now I
what?
can stop crying about it.
No, not after what Paul Heyman did. No.
No, now he'll cry about that, but I mean, now he can stop crying about his main event.
Oh, you're talking about the real stuff. So
Ah,
to me, that was match of the night.
yeah, yeah.
Definitely, definitely.
Um, and
To me, that was the match of the two nights.
You know, that's also one of those ones that you're gonna get the oh my god and oh my fucking god moments for the slammies out of because of what Paul Heyman did. I mean, if you notice, he only went just like that once to CM Punk, but when it came to Roman, he was like in there going,
He hit and he was like
yep,
yeah,
back and forth.
you want to get that in real good.
yep,
But to be fair, Roman did put his hands on him first.
right.
CM
You
Punk
know,
never did that. Well, not this time. I don't remember how things were back then.
but I got some respect for Heyman because I also watched the documentary about him, and I've seen him in interviews, and other people talk about Heyman, and what he does for everybody behind the scenes
Yeah,
is a lot. I mean,
Hmm.
that guy, I can see when he comes out and he's not totally shaved or whatever, or he looks like he hasn't slept for weeks. It's because he's busy helping everybody else. So I got a whole lot different level of respect, but I can't wait to see where this goes.
He is probably the smartest person in all of wrestling today.
Yep,
And the way that he does his interviews and everything is like, okay, is he in character or is this how he really is?
Right.
yep.
Uh, but
I'd like to track down that WrestleMania, the thing that wasn't televised. It was the roast of WrestleMania. I heard that Paul Heyman uh, kind of outshined the comedian that was hosting the event.
I heard that too.
Is that the one
Uh,
where he was uh, ribbing a fan? I did
yeah,
see a clip of that. He laid into that fan big
He laid
time.
into a fan on the Pat McAfee show.
Maybe
yeah,
that was it.
yep.
Yeah. Oh, he was brutal on
He
that one.
like turned his chair around and looked the guy in the eye and like just laid into him.
Something about deporting the guy.
Yep. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was funny.
Like, that he has no fear. He has no fear, and even the fan was thinking, "Oh,
Oh,
come
why
on."
did I open my mouth?
You
Yeah,
know,
you do.
he made Bobby the Brain Heenan look like child's play
Oh man,
when
yeah.
it comes to his level of genius.
but still, wouldn't that have been something? Paul Heyman versus Bobby Heenan.
My money would be on Heyman.
Yeah, I think everybody's would, but
No,
I
just
think
even
Bobby
if it
would
wasn't a
continue doing
wrestling
his own.
match, but a battle of the wits or something,
Yeah,
or the mics, you know. I mean, Paul Heyman's a genius of when it comes to speaking, you know, and setting up these things. I mean, nobody saw that coming the way it did.
not like that. No.
We all knew there was a favor pending for Seth Rollins because he didn't stomp him, and he could have. And it's like, now you owe me a favor. We all knew that was coming,
Mhm.
but we didn't know how that was going to play out. I thought Paul Heyman, the whole thing, I thought Paul Heyman was going to stay in the back because Seth Rollins made references. I can easily just make you not show up. You know, he made reference to that a couple of times. So I thought he would have, after he comes out with CM Punk, it's like, go to the back, Heyman, you're out of here. Like Seth Rollins would have did that to him or something. I did not see it coming this way.
Or attacking backstage.
Yeah.
But it was so good the way that it came off.
Yeah.
Well, and now I'm very interested to see how it plays, and I'm wondering if Becky Lynch is going to be the first ever Paul Heyman gal.
I don't see how she couldn't.
Well, especially after turning heel Monday night.
Yeah, I don't see how she doesn't join them, because now we're in the beginnings of a new dangerous alliance. Um,
See, I
but
knew she couldn't
Becky
hold on
wouldn't
to the
be at
belt long.
first though, because he had Medusa
Yeah.
then.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's what I was reading the first, but the whole thing is, I knew she wouldn't be able to hold on to that belt for long because during when she came out, they said she's in between season 4 or something like that on a break from the sea because she's filming that Star Trek thing where she's on the bridge.
Yeah, she. Start,
And they mentioned like she's in between seasons or they're in between, so she's on a break. So she would have never been able to hold on to the tag titles for very long, anyways.
she was actually in this show very early on.
Yep.
Right.
She's actually in this show. I still haven't gotten to the episode that Triple H is in, because he is in this show as well. But I'm at the end of season 6. There's 7 seasons altogether, and he still has not shown up yet.
Well, I just know I don't know nothing about that, but I know she's supposed to be on some bridge personnel on this new Star Trek series that's only on like Hulu or something.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of different spin-offs of Star Trek. It's ridiculous how that has exploded. And Star Trek is one of my favorite series.
Yeah, the only one, I watched up to a certain point, but I really didn't like Enterprise. I didn't like Scott Bakula. He didn't make a very good captain for me. You know,
So Seth Rollins wins the match.
I am very interested to see where this storyline goes now.
I am too. Um, Match of the night, arguably match of the whole event. To me, it's kind of a cross between that and the other triple threat match.
And that ought to make CM Punk feel that much better too. That his match kind of stole the show that he was in.
Hmm.
But at the same time, they let out somewhere over the weekend. My memory kind of gets a little faded with old age. Um,
There was a lot happening this week. It's
right, it was a
almost
lot to
impossible
take
to
in,
keep track of everything.
but I didn't know this about Paul Heyman. He was the one that formed and started the Shield.
Yeah,
Hmm.
behind the scenes.
quote unquote. Yeah.
And because they were the Shield in NXT before they came to WWE and made their debut.
And it wasn't supposed to be that original three. I think Seth was, but Roman was not the original
Muscle.
for the Shield.
Yeah, somebody else. I've looked it up. I've seen it, but yeah.
Well, I always
That's
thought Roman was the one that held was the glue that held those three together. You know,
the architect.
because it seemed like Seth and Dean kind of butted heads quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, they all did at one point.
Well, yeah, especially after the chair shot to the back.
Oh yeah. Boy, did that. Who would have thought that that chair shot back then would still be
Be
a
talked
part
about.
of today's stuff?
I
Yeah.
know. Probably never was until it was, you know?
Yeah. All right, moving on to night number two.
Oh, go for it.
Start the night off with Io Sky. Well, first of all, before getting into the match, I want to talk about um, what really kicked off. They did "God Bless America" by Jelly Roll on Saturday,
That was good.
and then the actual national anthem by somebody named Ava Max.
Yeah, somebody who the hell is she? I don't know her. I knew who Jelly Roll is.
Oh, everybody knows who Jelly Roll.
My daughter got her picture taken with him when he was in Milwaukee doing a concert.
He's a tall guy.
Yeah, he is.
Um, Ava Max. So when she was introduced like this huge star. 50 billion billions, not million, billion streams. I thought, holy cow, who is this? So I go look her up. She barely has any hits on the Billboard charts. All of her stuff is from like Spotify. That's it.
Wow.
She barely qualifies as a one hit wonder by Billboard standards. And Billboard, I thought, was still um, the standard of what music is.
It is in my eyes.
Well, come on, Joe. She's from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Hey, well, I'm not into the local music scene
No,
around
I
here,
get you,
but I
man.
do know somebody who is, and I have yet to contact. He might have actually heard it because he does local radio and he interviews the local musicians.
I've heard her songs that hit the top, whatever it's called. I had heard it, but
But
I had no
Spotify,
I
realized it
never
was
heard of
something
her
I can listen to.
period until Sunday night.
Yeah,
but
until I went back
Spotify
and listened to it, I had not known.
Spotify's like anything else out there, like YouTube. It's like, all right, there's ways to pay to get subscribers. There's ways to make it look like your stuff got more views than
Mhm.
it did, so on and so forth. There's a lot of shit out there that can do that. And it's like I don't trust anybody that comes from them.
Right.
It's like Paul Logan, for example. You know, he's like a superstar, you know, hit because of his videos or whatever. But he's also got the background to back up his, stuff in the ring.
Well, I'm looking at her discography right now.
Yeah.
She has two albums released. There's a third one on the way. In the US, her first album in 2020 only went up to number 27. Then her second album in 2023 only went up to 34 on the Billboard chart.
So she's not even in the top 10.
No.
Well, my friends released a bunch and has never got any in the top thousands. So.
Well, they
I-
still,
I'm the
so
same way. Now, for singles, her singles, she has one,
The King and
two,
Queen's one of the one
three,
I've heard.
four. 5 songs that made it um, to the Hot 100. 5 songs, and one of them actually made it to the top 10.
Well, they kind of blew it with night two on that. I mean, you got Jelly Roll, who is known worldwide.
Yes,
All right, arguably everybody knows who he is. Okay, but you had a lot of people out there like, huh?
and
When her
when
name was announced, they needed that big name.
when Alicia started listing her accomplishments before saying her name, I thought they had Taylor Swift.
Yeah,
The way that she was building her up, I thought she was going to say Taylor Swift. And
And,
then when she said Ava Max, I'm like,
who
who?
the hell is that? Yeah,
Yeah,
and maybe, just maybe, something happened and this was an emergency replacement.
that could have been.
I
But
don't
And
know.
I
so they
mean,
had to kind of build her up a little bit.
they
And
spend all
somebody
this,
knew, whether
they
it was
spend all
Jelly
the
Roll
money
or
for the
Triple H,
stage and all of
somebody was like,
that.
oh, I know this person.
You
They,
know,
they used to announce months ahead who would be doing
Right.
um, the music for WrestleMania. And now this is like 3 years in a row. They haven't announced it at all. It's just, here you go.
they better
Right.
get on the ball. I mean, they dropped it for night two on the music and
Yeah.
the person.
They dropped a lot on night two.
Yeah. Okay. So, oh, and Triple H also opened night one.
And
Stephanie
Stephanie
opened night two because I think they did the same thing last year.
last year. Yep.
She she is so good at hyping up the crowd. Um, and bye bye Chris.
Well, they didn't need any help on night one. They had Jay
Right back.
Lethal for that.
Yeah. So the match opens up with Io Sky, Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley. Now, CM Punk actually said, like a couple days before this event, that that match should have been in the main event.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that really big of him to say that, considering he's just now getting his first main event. He's saying they should have been put in the main event. And after seeing the entire event, I'm thinking, okay, maybe they should have main evented night one, and then the men main event night two. It definitely would have been a lot better.
I
Uh,
agree.
Yeah, that was a good match, even though Rhea wasn't supposed to initially be a part of it. It wasn't supposed to be a triple threat match.
according to the preview of WWE Unreal, it was supposed to have just been Rhea and Bianca.
Yeah,
So why did they all of a sudden switch gears and put her in there?
Not sure, but
Just to get her a match?
this is something that they had back in October, I think. They had John and Cody, Randy and Kevin, AJ and Logan, and Chad and Rey Mysterio. Those are the only 4 matches that made it this far when they did. All of the others were completely changed. Jay was not even supposed to have been on the card from what was shown on that little whiteboard that they had.
and Becky wasn't going to be part of it either right away.
Yeah.
They made
So
sure.
so that tells me that most likely that CM Punk was supposed to win the Rumble because they had Roman Reigns versus Seth or CM Punk and Gunther versus Seth or CM Punk. But there was so many different changes. Dominic was supposed to take on Bad Bunny.
Well, they
Well,
weren't
thank
even
God that
sure.
didn't happen.
See, the
Yeah.
whole thing was they weren't even sure if Jay was going to be able to carry the company with the title like Gunther or somebody else was. So,
I'm
you
still
know,
not sure he's going to, but he's good for business.
yeah, he is good for business and good for the merchandise. I mean, there was a
Still have
lot
to
of yeet
see.
merchandise out there. There always is when you see Jay come out.
Hmm.
Yes,
Still have to see how he carries it
But
all.
in that aspect, it's like you had Seth and Roman leading Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. They got to change the guards once in a while.
Absolutely.
yeah. So it's gonna be interesting to see how things go as far as Jay. I think he'll carry it to SummerSlam. But then again, I thought Cody was going to carry it to SummerSlam this year, but didn't
Well,
quite happen that way.
you never know. But the
Thank
thing
God.
is, at some point, I'm pretty sure the Usos are going to reunite because they're going to break records with the tag team titles.
Yeah,
They were an awesome tag team.
one of the very best for sure.
Yes.
Uso's New Day in that cage match. I remember it.
I don't. I'm going to have to go back and rewatch. I remember seeing it, but I don't remember how it was.
I
But
remember a lot of
I
brutality.
have heard it referenced before.
I think I like the New Day better now than I did when they were all those bright colors and unicorns and stuff. You know,
I, I usually like brighter colors anyway.
I
Than
think I think it was about time that they did this.
Yeah.
all right. So let's get into. We're now 2 hours into the show.
Yeah, next match.
Io, Bianca, and Rhea. To me, it was a no-brainer that Io was
Joe
going
was
to
going to
win.
walk out with the title.
Yeah.
I mentioned this on Friday night with Joe. To me, it was the most adorable thing seeing Io jumping up and down in the ring, throwing a temper tantrum. The, who does that these days in the ring? That is.
Guy,
In real life, a lot of people do that, but
No temper tantrums.
yeah, and and I thought this is the greatest thing seeing that, and that right there, Io's got to win this match because now she has a lot to prove, even though she's the champion.
well, yeah,
Hmm.
but Bianca and Rhea were only concerned about Bianca and Rhea and
Yeah,
kept pushing her in the face and
She
pushing
was the
her
little one.
aside and like disregarding her. It's like karma
and they tried to
has
do
a way
that
of
at the
working
beginning of
itself
the match,
out.
and she wasn't having it. Um,
I like all three of those women that were in that match, but I really, Io Sky, you cannot count her out.
no,
What was her name before they changed it to Sky? I'm sorry, I just forgotten that. Just stuck in
Io
my.
Shirai.
Thank you. Don't need to differentiate off. It just got stuck in my head. My OCD went.
Last year, during an interview in the ring, somebody referred to her as Io Shirai.
Yep.
I remember catching that. I don't remember who it was, but I thought, oh, they just used an old name.
Yeah, I like it when they do that.
Yeah.
She
And they're
kind
like,
of
oh,
looks like a cartoon, those Jap animation cartoons in a way
I,
when they do the close up on her.
I just wish she would stop doing that damn trash can bit in the war games.
you can only do it. So I wasn't impressed with it this year. Last year it seemed natural. This time around it seemed like forced to me.
Yeah, it
Had the strap already attached to it so she could carry it up, and
Well, you can only do something like that one time, and it be like the first time. You
Yeah.
can't keep on doing it.
yeah,
yeah.
Oh,
It's
it
You,
going
gets old.
to catch up
you
with
got to up the ante.
she's good.
so
Maybe they can get some more Japanese girls in there that can work with her too, with if they do the Japanese thing.
well Kyrie Sane is said to be cleared now.
Ooh, I like Kyrie.
Pirate Princess.
Yep.
And then Asuka I haven't really heard anything about her lately. Last I heard about was when she was fearing for her safety.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything about that since.
No, I haven't
Stay
either.
safe always.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, but she wasn't the only one fearing for her safety because at one point I was reading a story of stuff that was happening to Rhea Ripley as well.
oh yeah, somebody
She
had
got
actually
like a
sent
stalker or
a
something, or a
package
couple of
to her
stalkers.
house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was. I'm sure that was pretty scary too. All right, next match: Sin City Street Fight. Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre.
I called that one wrong.
I missed most of that one.
I got that one right.
Yeah, I knew that Drew would be the one to win it, but I was surprised to see that they put that match on second. I thought that would have been much later.
Well, I was disappointed in that whole match because it kind of looked like Damien really wasn't, his head wasn't in it or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, you think coming from where he came from and all this, and the announcer said this, weeks ago. This kind of match is like right up his alley. I was
Drew dominated
expecting,
the match.
yeah, well, I was expecting more from him. I was expecting more out of Damien.
I expect to see a lot more blood.
Yeah, that,
You
yeah,
barely saw
exactly.
anything.
Yeah, I was expecting that to be really bloody.
They didn't want another
And
bloody ring up.
and it's like, where the hell is Damian Priest? I mean, it's like his head wasn't in the match.
There was one scary spot. Well, actually, two. One was I forget who was throwing it, but somebody threw the top portion of the ring steps to the other person, and it almost looked like the other person wasn't ready for it.
Ooh.
And then there was another spot where this Drew was he had it and ram it into Damien's back. It looked like he missed the bottom of the back of Damien's head, like by an inch or two.
Ooh.
Um,
I missed both those. I'm gonna have to go back and watch that.
yeah, that was two scary spots there. Um,
I'm just always scared when a big guy like they did when they pushed Damien off and he went through the two tables. Anytime a big guy does
Oh,
that
I
kind of
saw that
bump,
coming
I'm
then.
always scared.
oh yeah, you could see him grab the
Yeah,
back.
yeah. Even bracing, I'm always scared when I see that kind of bump.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, I forgot about that one.
I mean, it
Yeah,
wasn't dangerous or scary to me. Though, just me personally, I'm always like, ooh.
yeah, but they're doing more to protect their head now too, because you really saw him go like this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think
No,
he
it's
actually,
just a me personal thing.
I think
It's a big guy.
Damien actually had his fingers locked too under his
Yeah.
head. Like that.
Chelsea did too in the Money in the Bank thing. If you go back and watch that one, she went through from the top.
The thing that I would have been worried about that spot is if he had slid on the table before breaking it and hitting the announcer table.
That's what worries me. Is something like that.
Yeah, because they reinforced that announcer table now. It's a lot stronger than it used to be, and that would have
Oh
really
goodness,
caused an injury.
what match was it where it got destroyed? That was the Braun Breaker when
Braun
he
Breaker. Yeah.
speared um,
Oh, Carlito.
Carlito. You could see, broken pieces, not just it collapsing,
Yeah,
broken pieces of that
Yeah,
announce table laying around. I was like,
But it's
and I'm sure they've got,
makes sense to me.
yeah, and I'm sure they've got stuff in the backstage areas like, all right, we got to replace this piece.
well, they
You know, 'cause-
had that whole table back up in no time.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking because at first, they were standing up. I was like, they better hurry up and get a table out there because that one ain't getting put back together.
it just concerns me, especially after what happened to JD McDonough back
Yep.
in January.
Yep.
So these new announcer tables, I don't know. They look nice, but
But they're built to collapse.
Yeah, just like
You
the
know,
tables that they pull out
unlike
are
the old
built
ones.
to collapse.
Right. Unlike the old days, where they're not.
They
yeah.
do it.
Because you can see where some, you get slammed on it and it doesn't budge. Yeah.
But Drew got his revenge on Damien after what happened last year. So
He'll have to find something else to whine about now.
Yep. Exactly.
I
That's
mean,
what I mean.
I'm not. I'm not. I guess I am dissing Drew a little bit, but I like Drew,
That was like the whole
but
year we was
I
whining.
don't like his whining.
Yeah.
I did like that still bored at work thing and took the selfie with Damien behind.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was his brother over
Yeah,
there.
he had it ready right there on X for him to do it.
Yeah,
So, well, damn, Donald, you're getting all kinds of calls today.
That sounds like fire. That sounded like a fire emergency thing.
I don't know. Well, he's not working, so
Yeah, but if it's
they
like
had they
that,
have another crew to be able to handle all of that.
anyway.
But
anyway, yeah.
I'm wondering if this is now the beginning of Drew posting on X every year at WrestleMania, because it's 2 years in a row now that he's done this.
Yeah, well, he's lucky he got a match at
Oh,
WrestleMania this year, the way the storyline played out.
with what he's been doing this past year, there was no way he wasn't going to have a match at Mania this year. Because this
I just
past
wish he
year has been
wasn't
his
whining so
best.
much. That's all.
He's supposed to.
You know, I mean,
But yeah, he is whining, but has he really said anything that is not true?
well, no, but I'm just saying, some of that stuff, it's like, it's wrestling, for Christ's sake. Get over it, you'd do the same thing if you were in CM Punk's, thing and cost you the title. You would have done the same thing if you were sitting in if roles were reversed.
I'm
Because you do anything you can to get a title shot or
yeah.
to get in a line for a title shot. You know, that's all he was doing.
I
Drew
am
would have done the same thing.
I am curious to see where he goes from here because I'm pretty sure that this thing with him and Damien is done.
Not, well, it may not be over yet, but it might be.
Like maybe a backlash rematch.
Could be. All I know is I think Drew McIntyre has come a long way since that graduating NXT class
He
with
had,
Wade Barrett and everybody. You
Come on,
know,
his best was 3-man band. Come on.
yeah, he was part of that and all that, but I mean, he's come
and
a long
skinny
way
as a
since.
rail too.
Yep.
I think they need to put him with Sheamus again as like a tag team
That would be fun again.
and get
They,
them and make that and have them get the titles
they did that once. Well,
or
not
both
the titles, but
titles.
they did have him as a tag team once.
Didn't they have him as a whole little faction?
Uh,
It was like,
Sheamus, yeah, it's not Drew. Sheamus was part of League of Nations.
that's what I was thinking. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
At that point, Drew was already gone.
Yeah. He was in a faction with LA Knight. Over in TNA or something.
That's right. I forgot. And
I forget the other guys, but
Tongo Lao.
yep.
So the next match is the Fatal 4-Way for the Intercontinental title. Braun Breaker versus Penta, Finn Balor, and Dominic Mysterio.
I thought Braun was going to win this one.
Yep, me too.
I called Dominic.
I just figured he'd power through it. And But Dominic was right. One thing I noticed on this match, and it hit me, and I never said anything. They finished this match the same way they finished the Io Sky match. The person climbs to the top rope, gets knocked down, and then jumps off the top with their finisher for the.
Yeah, but Io walked out just as she walked in, champion. Braun didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know, but same
Right.
booking finish.
That is true. No, I knew that it was time for Dominic.
It definitely was time for him to get a singles title,
Well, a
just
lot
like
of
his
people,
dad Eddie.
And I also knew that he was going to be pinning Finn.
a lot of people were also saying about Dominic that he is a lot better of a wrestler than they give him credit for sometimes, and it is true. I
Yes.
mean, he did get he grew up in the business, literally. I mean,
I know.
oh, I don't have.
He won the Intercontinental, just like his daddy Eddie. So,
What the hell is that?
That's my ringtone.
wow.
It sounded like my granddaughter.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And so when I heard it, I'm like, oh, I gotta get that as a ringtone because it sounds like my granddaughter.
Absolutely.
Did you look at that one that I told you about a long time ago? Somebody had a ringtone of themselves going, "Ring! Your phone is ringing. Pick it up, you dumbass! Ring!" It's something like that. This was a great, great match. And
Ron.
the whole thing with Carly. I feel bad for him sometimes.
Poor
He's
Cardito.
the new Doink the Clown.
Yeah,
I,
he's just got the comedian effect in there.
Yeah,
He's really not doing
that's
anything.
all it is for entertainment purposes.
I did not like
You
the
rarely
stairs
see the
through
guy
the
get in the
table.
Yeah,
ring and wrestle.
and they're really not using him that much in that
Yeah.
aspect. It's just here or there.
And he said that he is more than okay with that.
Well, I mean, you're getting a paycheck and you ain't got to get
Getting up
inside
that
and
age.
get.
Right.
All you gotta do is walk around carrying an apple.
That's not cool.
I'd do that. If they give me that kind of a paycheck, I'd do that. Just walk around carrying an apple and every now and then taking a bite out of it.
Yeah, spit in someone's face.
You
He,
know,
he was in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal Friday.
He does look in phenomenal shape still, though.
Yes. Yes. Now, granted, he was the first one eliminated, but
That's okay.
and he was eliminated by R-Truth of all people.
yeah,
I mean, you
another
still
one.
collect your paycheck whether you go 1 or you go 30. So,
Another
Yeah.
one. Another one that's there for comedic purposes,
our truth.
but in great shape. He's still a good
He's
wrestler.
in good shape.
R-Truth still looks like he's 20.
Yeah, and he's like 50.
50 some. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Shit.
But all that stuff, thinking, oh, you're Triple H, and he's talking to DIY, and he does that stuff on purpose because he's really not that stupid.
Oh,
no.
speaking of DIY, did you hear about Tommaso Ciampa?
No.
He fell somewhere and had a big dash on his chin. He
Ooh,
ended up having to shave off his entire beard so that they could fix his chin.
So we're going to see him look like, oh God, what did he look like way back when he jobbed? What did they call him? And somebody got him backstage. I can't remember, but.
There's a picture posted uh, because he was at WrestleMania weekend, and there was a new picture posted of him and Johnny Gargano with his beard gone and some medical tape on his chin.
Man, that sucks.
There it is. It doesn't even look like him.
No, he looks so different. I didn't see this picture, but I've seen a picture of him when like I said, he was in another Fed or WWE jobbing out or something, and he was a completely different character. Yeah,
He looks different.
he looks old as hell.
Yeah. So here's the medical tape. It actually looks like he's still bleeding at this point.
Johnny's just looking at him like, "Oh, I'll go home to my wife and kids."
So it so now he's going to have to regrow it.
Could he put a fake one on and just
Well,
gimmick it?
he's got to also heal before he can get back in the ring, too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So back to the Intercontinental title. I thought it was a really great match, and Ben was the only one who could take the pin and it not really hurt anybody. Um,
And I could kind of see it coming at some point in time with the tension
The
between the two.
storyline.
Right. I'm glad, and I had picked Dom to win. I'm glad that they gave it to him.
But it's going to
Yeah,
be the end of Finn Balor being part of the Judgment Day or the end of Judgment Day altogether.
I
well,
don't think it'll be the end of Judgment Day. I think it'll be tension between them two, and eventually it's going to have them two going
Yep,
versus each other for Intercontinental.
yep,
Probably SummerSlam, I would say.
yeah.
yep.
let's see.
And I think Dom will still wind up winning. Outside interference, whatever.
He
Um,
needs to keep it a while.
He's learned from a couple of the best luchadors. I mean, he was
he's
Eddie Guerrero and Dominic Ray
he's he's
were
grown up.
great
He's grown up in
influences.
the business.
Yeah,
Yeah,
He looks way better now than 6 months ago.
remember when they had the custody for him, the custody battle for him?
and
No,
and
Adam. Yep.
after he won the title at WrestleMania, it's like the audience started warming up to him a little more.
Well, they were one up to him in the middle of the match.
Right.
Um,
So, I mean, I picked Braun
he-
Breaker, but I like Braun Breaker, and I thought it was going to be Finn
I
and
thought he was just gonna muscle through everybody.
well, yeah, that, and I thought Finn and Dom were going to get into it and not work together as much as they did at first, and all of this,
Yeah,
and I thought the backstabbing was going to happen a lot sooner than it did, but Dom picked
well,
his moment, and it paid off.
I like the way that whole match went far as storyline wise. I liked them working together. Like, okay, well, at some point in time, it's gonna happen. But I'm
yeah,
glad they did it like they did it.
Yeah.
I
well,
know.
I was expecting Judgment Day to explode completely, but as of Monday night, they're still united.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
especially now
think
that the
they're gonna
titles back.
drag it out a little bit and have Finn's kind of jealousy kind of boil slowly.
That's probably what's going to end up happening. Um, Somebody had made mention that this was actually a full circle moment for Dominic, and I went and looked. Rey Mysterio won the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania 25.
Wow,
Yeah, but when did his dad Eddie win
his dad Eddie.
it?
So, so that's pretty cool that Rey Mysterio wins the title in 2009, and then 26 years later, Dominic wins the title.
Dominic won it. Yeah, that is really cool. All kidding
Yeah.
aside, that's cool.
Um, and you could tell, yeah, like you said, with the crowd warming up to Dominic because they wouldn't even let him speak on the microphone last year, and now it's like everybody is giving him a standing ovation for winning. And then the cameraman told him, "Go back to the ring."
Yeah,
Hmm.
He was walking out, so he ran back into the ring, hold the title up, and everybody is cheering for him.
yeah,
He
and
forgot his camera shots. He just grabbed it and ran, and he forgot to get his shots in. The obligatory shots.
So that was
moment.
another feel good moment there.
Yeah,
Having
yeah,
Well,
exactly.
yeah, and you know he's got to sit there and like in the back of his head, contrary to what he says in the ring and so on and so forth, that it's like Eddie and his dad have got to be proud of him now.
Yeah.
You know, because I know damn well because I see the pictures all the time of Dominic and his dad out and about in different
Hmm.
places,
yeah,
and so you know that stuff that they made up as a storyline was just a bunch of crap,
Oh yeah.
you know. But it still makes you want to hate him because you know he's being disrespectful to his father.
yep. And now it's like all of a sudden the fans are forgetting all about that.
Yep.
Right. Well, that's because you know they let kayfabe, you know, all that, all those secrets, and they're letting more secrets out, you know, with more shows being released. You
Yeah,
know.
but I think at the same time the fans are also realizing how much he has improved, and it's really hard to hate on somebody like that.
Well, it's. I think it's good for you know to have a place to let that little hate out than to let it out for real out there in public where the violence happens. But at the same time, what with them rolling back this curtain and letting everybody in, you know, you get to see the human side of these wrestlers, you know,
Hmm.
or you know, with the real names in some cases, you know, you get to really see what they are in real life.
Mhm.
And you can't sometimes you can't hate these people because some of the things they do are just amazing.
Well, one good instance is Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, what's that?
I said one good instance is Brock Lesnar. One example.
Yeah,
You know,
you know.
Bye, Chris.
No, no, bye.
Um, and another thing about Dominic, that the whole thing with him and Liv, the things that they do on camera, I'm thinking, holy shit! If I was Dominic, I would have such a hard time turning that down.
Yeah, imagine what his wife thinks
He has talked about that on Logan Paul's
because he married
podcast.
his high school sweetheart, if I'm
Yeah,
not mistaken.
yep,
Yeah.
the high school sweethearts, and he and Liv go and do this thing, and he'll have a text from his wife saying, "Hey, don't forget to pick this up for when you come back home or whatever." He said that she gets it, what he has to do for the
Well,
company. She gets it, and she's not jealous about it. He was worried about that for a minute,
you
and
know, I'm glad. I am glad that he's got somebody like that because that makes it easier. Because it's the same way as an actor or an actress in a soap opera. You know
yeah,
what their better half has to go through, and yeah, it's glad that they understand. I mean, they could be like Stephanie and get real pissed off. You know, like she did, and it took them
Randy
forever.
Orton's wife got mad at Alexa Bliss a few years ago, if you remember that.
But they they ruined China's life because Stephanie was so jealous of China and Triple H's relationship, and so she was kind of blackballed by WWE.
That's kind of a different circumstance, because yeah, it is Hunter's wife, but she also had the power to do this and that, and
Yeah,
um, he was also a part of that.
hmm
but
Uh,
I think that was wrong of them too.
right.
You know, because China was one of the ones that helped pave the way for a lot of these other women.
That is
to be
true.
there. I
Especially,
mean,
especially the more bulky women. Like,
yeah, like Raquel.
yeah,
Beth.
She's almost got the same size and look as China does, except I don't know if she was a bodybuilder or not, like
Well, you
China.
got to look at Rhea.
I think she
Or
was.
Rhea,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Rhea is just something else altogether.
Yeah, she's something.
Because she's got that perfect mix of everything that you don't look for in a female wrestler, and she just makes it work flawlessly.
yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen a picture of Dominic's wife. She is gorgeous.
That helps a lot.
Be right back.
I
And
also saw a picture of Finn Balor's wife. She is as well. She is actually a talk show host in Mexico.
oh wow, interesting.
Yeah, she actually had Finn on the show at one time, and she spoke English. Her accent was a little difficult for me to understand, but I was able to make out what she was saying. Um, but yeah, that's all I can say.
That's okay. That's all you need to say.
Um, but I'm really glad that
No.
there was no other choice besides Dominic to win this match. I did not see any other logical conclusion. Um, I hope she holds it for a while. I think he will.
Longer than Honky Tonk Man.
And to think
Honky tonk.
people are saying that he is going to be a world champion someday.
Who? I'm sorry. I lost
Dom.
Um,
you again.
Dom Dom.
Oh, I could see that.
Yeah,
it's going to be a few years down the road.
I mean, he
yeah.
for a young kid, he's talented. You know, I mean, at first he had a lot to learn, like his dad said. You know, he had a lot to learn, and then when he turned heel and joined the Judgment Day, he sure did start learning quick.
And he's only 28, so he's got a lot of years ahead of him.
I like that he hasn't totally used his dad's move set either. I mean, he still keeps the 619, but he got away from a lot of that move set.
He does the 619 and the frog splash.
Yeah, and those two are fine, but I'm glad he got away from a lot of that because at first,
Well, that frog splash is more Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah,
Yeah, and he does.
he does this thing here.
Yeah, and the Three Amigos, and I
yeah,
Hmm.
noticed.
Oh
yeah.
yeah,
Liv
I'm just saying, I'm glad he got away from a lot of that because when he was doing all his dad stuff, I was
too.
like,
isn't Liv also doing the Three Amigos?
Yes, that's
But
what I
not as
said.
good.
Oh,
yeah, Liv is doing it now.
but this is a good way of keeping Eddie alive.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I see a lot of people using the Three Amigos now.
yeah. Okay, this next one, a lot of people were looking forward to, and there was a lot of speculation in.
Best match ever. No, I'm kidding. It's
I
gonna go to the Hall of Fame next year.
what's coming. Randy Orton versus, we would later find out, Joe Hendry.
Say his name and
TNA champion.
Um,
he's
it's
a viral beast, though, man. I mean, I'll give him that. He's a viral beast.
it sucks that he wasn't able to have the match with Kevin Owens. Um,
Yeah.
but I thought for sure. I had four people thinking, but I thought for sure that it would be Nick Aldis.
I did too,
Yeah,
especially
you were
when
saying that
Mickey
Friday,
James.
and I like, was he a wrestler? And I had to look that up, and I followed. Yeah, he was. Wow, I
Aldis
was
was a
impressed.
badass.
Yeah, he
Well,
was.
when the doors open and you see that outline, I thought, oh, this is Nick. This is Nick. And then the video thought, oh, it's him.
And I like Hendry too. The
Yeah, I was thinking either a singles match with Nick or a tag match where he and Nick take on Solo and Tama, Rusev or Aleister Black.
Rusev would have been.
Those were the four matches that I was looking for. I never even considered Joe Hendry, but just a couple of weeks ago, he was saying that he was injured.
Maybe
Maybe
that
that's
was
why
a
it
ploy.
wasn't too
Maybe that was a way for them to keep a
Yeah,
tighter
Oh,
lip
that's
on
one
the
of the things.
secret. Yeah, because he did a good job being in there with Randy Orton.
he did. And in that match was perfect start to finish. Especially the way that Randy got him with the camera position was perfect for that RKO.
I like Randy doing the hit turnaround after he won too.
And
That
did
was funny too. That
Then
was
he
funny too. But this is big. I think this is the first time somebody who is not a contracted wrestler with that company coming in and wrestling,
I
and
think
not
so.
as a like a celebrity like Logan Paul or
right,
Lawrence
right.
Taylor. This is the first time somebody contracted with another company wrestling at WrestleMania.
And not to mention a heavyweight champion,
The
Hmm.
heavyweight
a
champion.
belt
That
holder
too, yeah.
for the company that they represent.
Yeah.
And I hope we see more of it,
I
you
would have liked
know,
to
with
see.
their champions, because TNA and them having this partnership is a good thing, I think.
Yeah, because it puts a lot of
Especially
eyes on TNA now.
And you
especially
can
now
see
that
Dolph
Vince
again.
is gone. And I kind of like how Triple H addressed that. Vince McMahon during the, what was it, the Hall of Fame ceremony, during his speech, and Triple H addressed Vince McMahon and all of this, that
Yeah,
it's a very complicated relationship, you know. But it basically, him being totally gone from it gets it so that they can get that fresh blood in there, the fresh ideas, and do things differently. And
Right.
and I've heard so much about, from the wrestlers, that they are happier now that
Hmm.
Vince is gone, because they don't, I don't want to, they just happier, you know.
Well, you got ideas that all these back behind the scenes have, and they're kind of just pushed off because Vince was, the say
Vince.
so. Triple H actually listens to the roster,
Right.
you know.
And Dolph is in TNA, right?
Well, it's like if Vince didn't want this person to win, he wasn't going to win, and he'd have that little earbud in the rough thing saying, "Nope, this ain't going to happen this way," or he'd come out and show his ugly mug and say, "Nope, this match continues,"
Hmm.
and stuff like that. And he was ruining it after a while. Yeah, he gave it a big push and stuff, but I mean, this all goes back to what was that one, Sable, or somebody that had issues with him early on, because of his advances towards the women, and treating one's favorite because he brought him in, and now they're Vince McMahon's little flunky. That, come on.
well, there were issues even before then as far as women were concerned because
Well, yeah,
there was issues with Mike McGurk.
Yep. That's way back.
I
Yeah,
mean, the guy thought he controlled everything when in actuality there was a board of directors, but I think he had them scared of him
I think he had controlling
because
interest.
he was a billionaire. He had all the money, and it's like another one that gets money and he becomes a narcissist and so on and so forth.
Even though he did have the board of directors, he still had 51% of the voting power.
Well, that's like it said. It's money. It's all about the money.
Yeah.
You know, he's a billionaire. They do what he says. They're scared of him. They ain't gonna go against him. And I'm glad he's gone because now wrestling can actually move forward like it should and stop rehashing a lot of the storylines that they used to rehash.
And then there would come a time where he would make certain wrestlers look foolish and make them do that. Like,
Kiss his ass.
Terry Taylor.
Terry
well,
Taylor, loved
that
him.
too.
Red
I'm
Rooster.
also thinking of when there was that whole skit with Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin and the dog food.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That was terrible.
That's about as bad as kissing his ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Kiss My Ass Club.
Well, and look at the way he treated the women. You had a Divas title, and remember this bra and panty matches.
Yeah.
The thing where they'd bring out the plastic pool and have it filled with Jello or some shit, and they have to wrestle in that instead of the ring. I mean, come on,
Well,
you
this was
know?
during the Attitude era when they were doing the whole sex sells things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they took that way too far.
They did.
I mean, in some cases, some of the women out there are still kind of degrading themselves by wearing some of those skimpy outfits. Not that I don't like it, but you got to thank the cameraman for some of the views you get. But
Some of them actually exposed themselves on.
right, it's
And
just like some of that skimpy stuff shouldn't be allowed.
I mean, look
and
what Layla
you
was wearing.
and you also have to look at those cameramen are very careful at some of the shots.
Yeah,
Also,
but some of them aren't.
If you noticed, and I don't know if you ever noticed this, but I read this a long time ago. Sasha Banks, when she used to do her tap out move, when she was in NXT, her legs were always apart, and when she got up to the main out roster, they started closer together because of the camera angle.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, and it's because someone said something one time that you could see her goodie, if you will.
Now I have noticed them
Well,
doing
they
that
end
with
up with more.
AEW lately.
Well, I saw it on WrestleMania weekend. They get these outfits that are so small. A lot of women are well endowed. They got nice chests and all this, but you see them doing this number. You know,
Uh,
and if they weren't so skimpy, they wouldn't be doing this number during the match to fix it so they wouldn't get exposed.
Noticed it happened with Jade.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Charlotte
Somebody
too.
actually caught pictures of her where she was falling out of her outfit, and if you notice, I forgot to mention this during her match. There was a piece of her outfit laying on the floor.
Yeah, I saw that, and the ref grabbed it later, and
Yeah, and I was trying to figure out where on her outfit it came from because I didn't see anything missing.
well, I think it was one of these things that were just like come out and they were
yeah,
like loosely attached on
yeah.
the trunks or something and
it's like
hanging off the side
um,
like a
She
flag
has
or something.
interesting outfits, so it's hard to tell with her. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way at all. But she just has
well,
interesting.
it's like Valkyria's hair, the feathers and all she had in her hair. That shit was falling out left and right.
Who was it said it looked like she got shot by a dove?
Yeah,
One of
yeah.
us did.
I was
Yeah,
like,
they got
the ring looks like a dove got killed.
Yeah.
yeah. I thought that was just
A
like
headdress.
a piece that she was wearing. I thought she was going to take it off.
Nope, that was all entwined in her hair somehow.
Yeah, that. Oh my, that had to have been a lot of work doing that one.
What they go through.
Yeah, but anyway, getting back to Randy and Joe. That I thought that for what it was perfect. It got exposure to Joe, exposure to TNA. Um, I don't think that could have gone off any better. And Randy
And
was
probably,
giving Joe his props by mocking him with the whole spin around thing.
And at
yeah,
the very end, even after that, the second thing, he even like tapped him and said, "Good job" or something
Yeah,
I would have liked to seen more offense
out of
from him.
Joe.
Yeah.
I
Um,
think so.
it's
well,
it's it seemed like in my
probably
eyes they brought
match.
him out there. They brought him out there just to kind of bury him a little bit. You know, being a world champion and you really didn't get a long match.
I have seen some of Joe's other matches, and this one here seemed like a really quick greatest hits move set for him.
It kind of was. Yeah, it was do
Well,
all your crap and get out.
well, who
Yeah,
better to highlight you in your first like debut match on WrestleMania than Randy Orton? You know, I
Yeah,
mean,
and you
that
you are talking about Randy.
the guy
You know,
sat there and Joe got to sit there and showcase what he can actually do
mhm.
in front of a much bigger audience than he's used to. I
He
give
tried to get his finisher in on Randy.
I give the guy
Randy
props
took
for
him in the
not
eye.
choking at WrestleMania,
Yeah.
even though he lost. I mean, he could have really screwed it up for not being in that kind of venue and that kind of spotlight before. You
I
know,
get what you're saying, though, Donald. I get what you're saying. You
Yeah.
want Joe to have more offense.
right?
He got his backward slam. He got tried to do the choke slam, and he also did the kick up.
The tip
Those
up.
skip-ups that they
Yeah,
use.
the choke slam thing is his finisher, so he actually went for his
So,
finisher on
so
Randy.
those y'all, this little side joke here you just come up with is like it seemed like every match during this WrestleMania. Not even we have a private chat we talk about, and it's like every match you getting. Oh, it's a kip up. It's a kip up. Oh, it's another kip up. I was like,
They
I
God,
said it two or three in
enough with
that
the kip
one.
ups.
you were getting quite annoyed with
Yes,
that.
enough with the kip ups. Just do it. Don't even say it. Don't even say that's what it was, Cole. Just
He's
you
got
know,
to call it. That's his job.
oh, he's up.
Impressive though anymore, unless like somebody like you brought up earlier, almost would do it, or almost, or however you say his name, or Braun, or somebody like that. Then it's impressive. But when like a little guy does it now, it's just like
When it's in every single
it's like
match. I
a
want you to
super
start
kick.
keeping up with it. How many kip ups can we do in a show? We'll start keeping up with it.
But
And,
before,
and
I
it's
think there was
super
only
kick.
Shawn
It's,
Michaels doing that. And then
Yeah.
after he retired, it's like, okay, everybody's doing it now.
Oh, and he calls around. What's he call a roundhouse kick? Which it
Big
kind of
Show did it once.
it's the
yeah,
what do they call that the kick?
super kick.
No, it's a roundhouse kick. Forgot what he calls it. It begins
Who
with an
does
L.
it?
Oh, a bunch of different people do it.
Sweet chin music.
No, it's a roundhouse kick. Where you rear leg, yeah,
Oh, the
Saguri or something.
insecurity,
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Insegura is like
back of the head,
no, it's a roundhouse kick.
supposedly to the back of the head.
Yeah.
no, it's a simple roundhouse kick. It's one of those ones that if you watch, it made a movie famous for martial arts, but it's not even a martial arts movie.
What is that?
Billy Jack. He
Well,
basically the most famous thing that came out of that is see this. I'm going to take this foot and I'm going to hit you on that side of the face.
Yeah.
And you want to know something? There's not a damn thing you can do about it.
see,
And
back
he's
in the
like,
day,
oh really? And he just drops the guy with one roundhouse kick and he's dropped.
well, in real life, that was actually what would happen.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
but
but
they kind of try
the,
to classify it as a martial arts action film, and it's not even that.
well, he was Century, which is a major martial arts supplier. Actually started in a garage back in the '70s,
Really.
making uniforms. Yeah.
I think
Um,
a lot of things started in the garage back in the
of
70s.
course, they're
Apple's computer did. Well, Apple's computer
multi-million dollar
did.
company. But yeah, it was some little old ladies making uniforms in their garage, selling them to local schools and stuff, and it turned into this big multi-million-dollar company who's supplies majority, and even like the Cobra Kai series. Um, you know, most of their props and things like that, uniforms and all that, was made by Century. Um,
Oh, Century. Yeah.
but back in the '80s, they made some jeans that were called kicking jeans, and I
Yeah.
remember Billy Jack being the poster child, and Chuck Norris also being the poster child for the kicking jeans, and they were made to a certain way where
Poster child for anything martial arts.
the the crotch area was stitched in a certain way to where you could actually kick while wearing jeans.
Yeah.
Yep. I remember.
All right, let's get back to the matches. We only got 3 more left to go, guys.
Really?
Andy done.
Yeah. Feels like we've been doing this for 3 hours.
We almost
Yeah,
have.
I know.
yeah,
Um, AJ Styles versus Logan Paul. Now, when Donald and I did our prediction thing, I was right down the middle. I could not call it. But as we got closer and closer and closer, I started leaning towards Logan Paul on this one.
Well, I picked Logan Paul too.
as did I.
You know, I mean, it's like AJ's up there a little bit, and he's getting close to that retirement thing. So I figured he was just going to take a fall to make Logan Paul look better.
Yeah.
I think I said Paul, but I liked AJ. I always liked AJ.
Well, yeah, but
AJ and wanted Paul.
he's I've seen him in some private interviews where he's talking,
Yeah.
he's got maybe 3 or 4 more years left, and that's it.
No, absolutely. Yeah. No. I get you.
He's been doing it for a long time.
Oh yeah, I know.
It
He
was
was back in WCW.
Yep. And TNA and
47 years old.
Impact Wrestling and
Yep.
New Japan Wrestling.
Yeah, I saw this one going Logan Paul. I didn't know how they were going to
Logan
end it.
Paul is one of those celebrities that can actually go, and so I don't mind him.
Yeah.
Of course, his
the level that he does, that's just unheard of.
yeah,
Yeah.
his character I don't care for. Of course, he's a heel.
Yeah, but he's a heel.
All his
So,
abilities, his abilities are awesome.
His character, I think, is actually Logan Paul.
yeah, I think it's Logan Paul up.
It's
Yeah.
just
And
that,
that probably makes it genuine.
but at the same time, you got to realize out of all the social media people that they bringing in, Logan Paul's best for business. He's got the most
Oh, yeah.
followers. He brought in that sponsor, that energy drink sponsor.
Prime.
Yeah.
That's his company.
Well, whatever. But still, you know what I'm saying? I mean, he's good for business.
Yeah.
You know,
I still don't like the whole sponsor thing on the ring match.
Oh, me neither.
Yeah.
I said it. It looks like a little 5-year-old got creative on WW 2K25 and just kept adding stickers onto it.
well,
Does
it's
look
like
like it
it's like them putting sponsors on cars on NASCAR. They got to make money somehow.
Well, you look at
So they've done that from the beginning.
They got banners and ring posts.
how Drew came to the ring. They're promoting the new Doom, which I didn't even know there was another Doom coming out.
There's another Doom coming out.
Yeah, Doom. What is it called? Doom.
They're making less money now that Raw's on Netflix. The pay-per-views are on Peacock. You know,
Oh no, they're making plenty of money. That's
well, no, they
$100
got to make up
million
for
a year.
less. They got to make up for the less sponsorships that would be on normal TV. Because they get a cut of those commercials that are played during
28 billion or something.
like SmackDown. They got all those commercials during SmackDown. They get a cut of that. But
Right?
here now it's a less of a cut because it's not big time cable TV. It's Netflix now.
Yeah, but they're still making like 28 billion from Netflix or something.
Yeah, but they got to I can
They're
understand,
making more off
like,
Netflix than they were going to make off USA
right,
or
but I can understand having the sponsors in the ring and stuff the way, but they
that's
kind of should have just kept it in the corner and then
yeah, exactly.
leave
They,
the
they
ref.
started putting the sponsors on the turnbuckles now.
Yeah, it's like they should leave the center of the ring for the logo or something, not for a big sponsor to be in the center of the ring.
There was a time that they did have the logo on the center of the ring. I remember WrestleMania 12. They had that whole logo on the mat.
Yeah. A logo or two don't bother me. It's when it was like that, what had like 7 logos or something.
Yeah, they got it over. It's
That
like
was a little too
overkill.
much for me.
There's, let's see, they had something in each of the corners,
Corners and then center.
the center. They also had them in the side. So there's 9 right there.
Yeah, that's
Then I
overkill.
think they had one turnbuckle in each corner, so there's 13. And then there's the ones that they put on the barriers.
Yeah,
Yeah, the one you brought up.
yeah. You feel
No
like you're at a
wonder
baseball game where
they're
you got.
breaking records all the time.
So
So
John Cena and his drumsticks. Yeah,
don't even get me started on that one.
I'm curious to know how much it costs, not how much you make, but how much it costs to run an event like WrestleMania 41.
Oh, I think it's easy in the 7 figures for that.
Oh yeah, I mean, no doubt. I just looked up a thing, and it's like they made like 38 million off of 38.5 million off of ticket sales.
Well, yeah, I believe that considering the cheapest seats are probably 500-600 bucks.
That's not counting your everything else that you made, like
Right.
215 million off
It's
the
not like I
weekend.
can just offer them $50. Say, hey, promote Marks on Wrestling.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Uh,
Maybe one day we'll be at the. One day we'll be at a press conference.
yeah. What about that entrance of Logan Paul's? That was something else. Because it looked like he was doing a selfie on his camera,
Hmm.
on his phone.
Does he not know how to drive? Oh, just curious.
Go,
Sure.
going around, and then all of a sudden he just starts flying in the air. It's like, holy shit, that was the drone that he was holding on to.
That was cool.
It was. I like that. And then the drone came back to his hand.
That was real cool.
I think that was kind of set up
Oh,
because those drones. I've got a cheap one. You know, it retailed for like 300 bucks. Okay, but it's sophisticated enough where it won't crash. It's got crash sensors, so when it starts going up, it won't hit anything. It'll stop and just kind of hover. But it hooks into my phone, so I've got all these cool, interesting ways to control that thing.
I
Yeah.
would
So
I
I
would
mean,
say somebody was in charge of that.
yeah,
You
and
know,
they allowed him to catch it. It was all like what I'm saying is that was allowed. I don't think if whoever was in control of the drone, whether it be Logan Paul or somebody else, if they didn't want him to catch it, he wouldn't be able to.
all right.
So, I mean, when they were making a big deal out of it, and I'm like sitting here kind of laughing, it's like, obviously, you don't understand drone technology, do you? Well, you got to realize it's like anything else. There's somebody on the ground with the phone or the controller controlling that drone.
Well, yeah. Yeah. Drones are amazing, but yeah,
They've come
that's
a
kind
long
of my
way.
first thought too, Joe. I was like,
They've come
somebody
a
had.
long way from the first drones that came
Well,
out.
right. And like I said, mine's like, not the most expensive one out there, but it's pretty advanced for the technology that's in there. And
Hmm.
you know and if you don't catch those the right way, you could actually end up damaging the drones or having to replace the propellers and stuff because they, you got in my package when I bought it. There's actually replacement propellers for it and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We
But
had one we used in the paranormal for a little while, and it had
that's
a
what
bunch
I
of
got it
replacement
for.
parts. Make some really good shots, especially some of the places we went. You could like hover over the building, like Moundsville and stuff. Get the whole place.
My friend has one, and you can literally catch it on your hand. It's big enough where you can just like grab it, like almost
And
like.
I'm sure,
This one here
they
had
got a top of the line.
for his hand to catch.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sure they've got a top of the
Oh
line.
yeah, they've got top of the line because you know they're actually their cameras are really good that are in
yeah,
those, and they're much bigger and stuff. I mean, they got them out there now. When I got this given to me, the one I've got, there was night vision on those drones was only available if you had a lot of money to spend. Now
yeah,
they've gotten cheaper.
Well, now and then you think about it, the technology they've got for that one drone be able to broadcast, you know,
yeah.
the
You can actually
footage
cast.
live, you know.
You
So I've
know,
got I found some breaking news here. You guys may or may not recognize this name, but um, Hisashi Shinma passed away 2 days ago. He was a Japanese promoter, and he was also on camera president of the WWF from 1978 to 1984,
wow.
where he was succeeded by Jack Tunney. He just passed away of pneumonia 2 days ago.
Hmm.
Wow.
Hisashi Shinma, he was 90 years old.
Oh, live the long life.
All
Yep,
right. Long life.
yep. He was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame through the Legacy Wing in 2019.
Oh, okay.
So, all right. I thought Logan Paul AJ Styles was a pretty good match. Lots of high flying. You could
As
expect that
expected.
from those two. And it seems like a broken record having that one guy from Logan Paul's Croonies coming out with the brass knuckles all the time.
Yeah.
I don't understand why he does that. Because the son
Especially
of
since he's got the metal rods in his hand.
exactly, he's got that loaded fist to begin with. What the fuck you need, brass knucks for?
Yeah.
To
You
make it
know,
extra powerful.
like Sluger didn't need stuff like that because he had that loaded, from his elbow to his wrist, that was all metal on his like right or left arm, one of his arms,
Yep.
you know. And he used that all the time and got away with it because it's part of his body.
Mhm.
Hmm.
What are you going to do? Have him go through surgery to take it out? I don't think so.
Well, maybe now he could, but
Well,
Hell, back in the day, that was a
they,
big thing
they
in wrestling.
yeah.
Loading
but
your
they
boot or loading your
also
mask.
You can't.
they made him wear like a
Long
pad
protected.
for that arm.
He had to wear an elbow pad.
Right, but look how many times he took it off and got away with it.
Hmm.
Or you got the opposite. You got Iron Mike Shark that loads. El
Kind of like the Chad Gable
Grande
loaded mask.
Americano.
Yeah, and that's a fallback to the old school wrestling back in the '80s. I was talking about just a second ago about loading the boot.
Oh
DiBiase
yeah,
had a
the
glove.
Iron Sheik, just tapping it and loading it. I forgot about that.
I still
Yeah,
do that habit sometimes. And then I think,
grappler. The grappler used to do that. He used to load his boot. Tom Pritchard used to
yeah,
put something on his boot back in the
they
day.
used to tap it.
Well, now Tom Pritchard just had it and stuck it on the front of his boot. I actually got pictures of that on one of the smaller events that we went to, where I got him take a picture of him loading that boot on the outside of the ring.
And Chad Gable, we've got to talk about Chad Gable put that thing in his mask.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
like the
part of
kick
it.
when he kicked him and it like hurt his ankle.
Yeah.
yeah.
You better go see what she wants.
She's going to get mail.
No.
She had to go to work before. Now she has to go get mail.
But yeah, I do get tired of seeing that guy coming out with the brass knuckles. He looks the exact same every single time. And it's like he does the exact same every single time. He gets out there, he sneaks down there, and it's almost like they took a clip from the first time he did that and put that in every match that he's been in.
Like those cheesy movies when they just reuse the same clip for different things.
Man, I get tired of that. And
He got caught this time though.
Yeah, but it's like,
yeah, he did.
it goes back to, you can do it once and you get the crowd reaction in that, but why keep doing it?
Hmm.
Because
It'd be fun
now
if we
you
did
kind
different
of
members too.
now when Logan Paul comes to the ring and he's in a match, you kind of expect those brass knuckles to show up one way or the other.
Well, remember when he would have him the old school way. He'd have him tuck down his tie,
Right.
and then he started having people hand them to him because they started checking. I think it should be a different crew member every time. At least that would put something. You'd be like, well, who the hell's this? At
Well,
least,
even
Or either that, or place it under the ring somewhere,
yeah,
under the steps. Something like that.
even now, who really knows who that guy is?
I know. It's probably one of hell. It might not even be one of his people. It might be a WWE employee that just they
Happens to be there.
they just say, hey, be this guy tonight.
Yeah,
It's like he's
he's
Logan's.
he's part of the teardown crew.
I know who they say he is, but I mean,
He
for
could be
real,
part of the teardown crew.
Yeah,
yeah.
but that aside, Logan Paul, AJ Styles still put on a hell of a match.
I liked it. As I figured I would because I knew they're both pretty damn athletic.
Yeah,
AJ's going a little bit slower now, so he's put on the weight and not the weight, but the muscle and
and Logan put him in that new finisher that he's got.
pulverizer or whatever he
Yeah,
called
but the
it.
problem with that finisher is that he's not going to be able to do that on everyone.
Right. I still wanted to see him, like I said, I put it in the messages. I wanted to see him hit the spinal tap on AJ. I think that would have been cool. To say I can do it. You said you can't do it, but I can still do it.
AJ said in an interview with Van Vliet that he can't do that move anymore.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So have Logan Paul do it on him, saying, "Haha, I can do your move that you used to be able to do."
Yeah, wouldn't that be something? Okay, the next match: Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez versus Lyra Valkyria, and we would find out Becky Lynch. So originally, it was supposed to be Lyra and Bailey challenging for the titles, and then Bailey got attacked on Saturday. Lyra's given 24 hours to find a new partner.
Supposedly Becky got attacked
Bailey.
Bailey.
or Bailey. Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about it in chat about, all right, who's it going to be? We were throwing all kind of stuff. Alexa coming out, Becky Lynch coming out, Paige coming out.
I thought that was
Here's
the
the thing.
shocker of the night for a surprise
Yeah.
appearance. You know,
Well, we knew she got signed a while back,
yeah, but
re-signed.
they kept that such a secret on that. I mean, when Seth was in those interviews over the weekend, he basically said she's got no intention of coming back. She's happy acting, pursuing her acting career and stuff like this. And it's like, are you going to pursue acting? And he's like, no, no, no. I prefer, commentating for, like, let's say the Chicago Bears because I'm a big Bears fan. That's what he said, wanting to commentate for the Chicago Bears. And,
I remember reading about that one.
right. So, but he made it clear that she had no intention of coming and returning They kept a very, very tight lid on that secret.
Heel
I just
move.
wonder how long this had been planned. Um, because an interview with Bailey, Chris Van Vliet interviewed Bailey. It just came out yesterday, I think. I'll check real quick because I just watched it today before.
Well, if it was a quick thing, it's because, like I said, they said she was on a break from filming the Star Trek stuff that she's been doing or whatever. And, if she's on a break, weekend, she's going to be on the road with Seth with the daughter in tow.
Mhm.
And she was.
Okay, here we go. This was put out yesterday. Um, Chris and Bailey were talking about how she doesn't get the recognition for everything that she's done, and she has done literally everything but main event WrestleMania. She's won the Rumble. She was in the Rumble for over an hour. She has main evented other pay per views. Um, and they were talking about why she doesn't get that recognition and the respect from everybody. And then she said, by the time this comes out, because they did that interview on Thursday, released it yesterday, she said, by the time this comes out, they're going to be even more. And then she stopped herself. And Chris is like, even more. Whoa, what's going on? What are you not telling us?
Right.
So Thursday, they already knew she's not going to be doing WrestleMania, that Becky's in it. But I get why they did the whole thing for Becky, especially now that she has turned on Lyra. Um, but I hated the fact that it was at Bailey's expense that and it kept her out of WrestleMania.
Yeah, that I didn't like.
Well, I see Bailey getting probably back in the mix of that with this whole
Well, it
time too.
probably end up being Becky who attacked her.
Yeah, that'll
Probably.
probably come out like that. Yeah.
Get Becky versus.
Because it kind of solidifies Becky's heel turn,
Right.
getting it that way.
Because it was like
Look
the
what
whole
it
thing
did
with
for
James.
Naomi. Look what it did for Naomi when
Right.
she went and, now you don't see the feel the glow thing, which it was time that was getting old. And now she's come out with this new badass attitude.
Well, at the same time, the blame went to Liv and Raquel.
Right. But
They
it did
both
that
kept
for
saying it
Naomi
wasn't them.
too.
And now they're saying it wasn't them either with
Right.
Bailey.
Right. But again, they blame the wrong, I thought that too, but it's like later I read that, the whole thing was kind of scripted. So,
So,
there is a reasoning for it all that we can count on. The whole Bailey story is not done yet.
right. So I thought it was an okay match. I don't remember anything specifically that stood out.
I remember saying to my wife when before that match was started, right when they were going to reveal Becky as her partner, I said, whoever comes out is going to be the one that's going to be blamed for Bailey's injuries.
I was expecting Bailey to turn on Lyra that night. And when she didn't, I thought, oh, okay. But I certainly wasn't expecting them to lose the titles the next night.
Well, I told you they were going to go on and keep the
That
ball
Yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of
because
saw
they
that
kept
coming,
pushing.
you
Yeah.
know, in a way because I also know that Becky ain't got a whole lot of time before she's going to get called back to Hollywood, you know, and so she wouldn't be able to hold on to that title too long.
Well, I didn't look at it that way. I look at it as Valkyra. keeping two titles. It's
Yeah,
like
that would
they're
have been
not going to let
hard
her
on her.
not
Yeah,
going to let her keep two.
but at least now she can say, "Hey, I held two championships at one
Right,
time."
right. Even though the one
Double
was
champ.
under 24 hours.
Yeah. Um, but I do like where this is going, and plus, this will help. Hopefully, this will lead to Becky joining this new alliance.
Yeah, with Braun Breaker, Seth
Yeah,
Rollins, and Paul Heyman.
I'm hoping that's where it's going to lead.
Yeah,
And maybe if she does the whole filming thing, she'll still be able to make little appearances on Monday nights and just be there in the background. Where, okay, yeah, I'm still here, I'm just not wrestling.
well, you can't have anybody better helping you do that than Paul Heyman himself. I mean, look what he did for Brock Lesnar. You know, yeah,
Yeah,
look how long he held on to that belt for, and how few appearances he made and defended that belt when he had it.
Yeah,
That was all Paul Heyman's doing. You know,
Paul is just the best.
yeah, he's a genius when it
He-
comes
he-
to wrestling.
yeah. Um, but the match itself, aside from the exploded dove in the ring, nothing else really stood out for me because I can't remember anything except for Becky giving Liv the man slam twice.
Yeah, 2 or 3 times.
Yeah. Aside from that, I really don't remember anything else.
Yeah, wasn't that spectacular?
No, I think it was more of Becky getting revenge on Liv.
Yeah. I
hmm
think it was
More
just
what
to
that
get
match
Becky in
was
there so tomorrow night she can turn heel.
about.
Thing.
Right,
Yeah, because her last match was with Liv
right.
when she
Before
lost
she
that
left.
title. Yeah. Okay, we finally arrived.
The boring match of all.
Oh, before this match, um,
Oh yeah, we had the drunk guy show up and drive a 4-wheeler.
yeah. So the night before, Shawn Michaels announced the attendance, but he did it from the main stage.
Right.
Then they also did the presenting the Hall of Famers like they do every year.
Yeah.
Um, on this night, Stone Cold was doing the announcement but this time he was doing the four wheeler.
Well, I saw footage where his music come on, everybody's going crazy, and it's like, where in the heck is he? Where in the heck is he? And then finally he comes up on the thing and drives down and does
Yeah,
his thing. He missed the turn. He missed the ramp completely. That's what it took so long. I saw footage from a fan where they had to back him up and get him back on the ramp up top to get him to come
It
down.
almost looked like he missed the ramp to go down to the ring too.
Yeah,
If you look at it
yeah, that's
when he's turning in to go down, he's like real close to the edge there too. So it's like,
yeah, he
jeez,
must have had a few Steve Weisers
yeah.
before the match, but
well,
It
for
looked
that
like,
first one, I was wondering if maybe because there were people telling him go this way.
yeah,
hmm
So I was wondering if maybe he took that as literally going this way, not on the ramp.
that could be.
could be. I mean, he totally missed that ramp, and they had to
Yeah,
get him back up on the ramp to come down. And then the whole fiasco of him going around the ring twice and then crashing into the barricade.
yeah,
There's all kind of. I've seen a bunch of different videos where when he hits, the lady is basically does LeBron James,
Flop. Yep.
yeah, a flop, a few
They
seconds after.
check on her, and other people check on her, and
Yeah, I think she's looking for a payday.
no, because from what I'm reading, that when you have ringside seats, you have to sign a waiver.
Well,
yeah,
it was a pretty big flop, and I saw where people were talking about the husband looked very stressed out during the rest of the show. And I'm like, well, I can imagine so because his wife was pissed off.
Well, she only had one match to go
You
through
still,
anyway.
even signing a waiver, you can still sue. That don't mean you'll get anything, depending on what the
People can
waiver.
sue for any, people can sue anybody for any given thing, whether you get it or
And
not.
that's
It's
why
always
they
a
also
story.
that's also why I think that they kind of made Stone Cold come back over there and look like he apologized and quickly and then walked
Well,
off.
I'm sure she got,
She did that on her own.
I'm sure she got free merchandise and stuff.
Yeah, maybe even reimbursed for her tickets. Who knows?
Yeah.
And when he got back, they couldn't do a breathalyzer on him because he was drinking right there in the
Yeah,
ring.
I know.
No, he spilled more on his shirt than he actually got in his
I
mouth.
know. That's what I said. He drank 2 cans of beer, but only half went down his into his stomach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
he made a blunder though during Pat McAfee's show. I think it was that I saw that. You know, he
I'll be back.
literally did he passed out the beer to everybody else on the panel, took two for himself, and did that. You know, like he crashes them both together, and the one totally fell out of his hand.
Wow.
You know, and that was like the day before or whatever that morning. It was like Pat McAfee with a panel. He had John Cena and all these others on there.
I think we can safely say that we won't be seeing him on a four wheeler anymore.
Going
Unless
forward,
it's on his
Yeah.
ranch.
yeah. Which the days of him popping in are going to get more scarce and more scarce
Yeah.
because of his age, and they don't bring a whole lot. They do, but they don't. They bring out these superstars from yesteryear, but it's getting more and more scarce seeing those guys pop back out.
Which is not a terrible thing,
No, but
especially if they want to focus on the younger talent. But
Right.
that,
it is nice every now and then to have somebody come out.
Right.
but
I like the way they're doing it, whereas they're not trying to put them in a match. Those days are, long gone.
yeah, like when Randy Orton first started and he got the title Legend Killer, they'd bring
Hmm.
back these legends just for Randy to
To beat
put
them.
RK on, yeah, and beat him, and it's like that I
Some of
thought
these
that was
guys don't
great.
need to be in the ring.
Well, yeah, I mean some of the, I mean, you know, you've been doing this for as long as you have, and the way that they did it, and they didn't really care about the wrestlers that much. Wrestle injured, they still do that, but that's their stubborn pride. But, when you hit 50, 60 years old, you're going to need help to the ring in some cases. Look at Ric Flair. I mean,
Right.
that guy should have retired a long time ago and not made any public appearances.
Well,
Yeah,
Every time
wrestling
he makes
appearance.
a
Rick
public
is Rick.
appearance, he's got a chance of getting his ass kicked in the center of the ring.
Yeah.
Look what happened to JR, and he's not even a wrestler.
Right.
Or Jerry the King Lawler, where he was just an announcer and he ended up having that heart attack and stuff, and he still got in the ring because that's what they wanted. It's like,
Well, and I guess their defense of those guys that this is what they know is all they've ever done, and like if you're gonna die, why not? If you're gonna have a heart attack and pass, oh, I could think of a different way they would want to do it.
If you're gonna
yeah,
die, die
well,
what you like doing.
but
Yep.
I'm saying, like after a certain point, Lawler's not a wrestler; he's a commentator. You shouldn't be putting him in harm's way. Look at Duggan. Duggan's still there. Duggan works behind the scenes pushing a broom just to be around the wrestling.
I see Duggan. Him and his wife are traveling a lot.
Yeah,
Right.
they just went over to England or something.
Yeah, I see them making public appearances and this and that and do these different
But
shows.
at a point, he
Um,
stayed behind the scenes for a while, pushing
right.
a broom just to be close to it
I
and
think
keep
he got
earning that
something.
paycheck.
You got so much. Yeah, you got so much knowledge that you can share.
Right.
Um, and pass on to the new.
younger generation.
Right.
That's why I really like Saturday night's main event because I think that they're using that not only for today's stuff, but to also honor all all the old timers, and they have been doing that. They've also been doing everything retro, the red, white, and blue ring ropes, um, the old style entranceway.
Yep, it's really got that nostalgia.
Now they need the blue steel cage if they ever have a steel cage match.
I wish they would bring that back because that's my steel cage match.
Right?
Ven-
Same.
Ventura's back commentating.
Yeah.
It is so good to hear him commentating again.
You know, the only thing is, we don't even know how long that might last. You
Mm,
know,
Supposed to be 4 times a year for however many years.
yeah, but he's up there in age too, and he's got a lot of pressures outside of wrestling that very few know about. You
Right.
know, he moved out of the country because he feared for his life by our government because of his show where he was unearthing all these conspiracy theories. And he was
That
doing
doesn't
that
surprise me in the least.
before it was more acceptable and stuff, and he was getting death threats that way, you know,
Yeah, that does not surprise me in the least. I want to see those shows too
you know,
that he was doing.
and
They're
he
good.
was like
I used to watch them.
Minnesota's favorite governor and all of that and stuff, but he gets all this pressure. It's like, why don't you? Well, I'd have to become just as crooked as the politicians that are running. He's made comments like that, and he says I can't do that. So he's been very outspoken, and he's gotten into a lot of trouble for it. So he like moved across the border, and he lives in Mexico or something, somewhere undisclosed location.
Right. Okay, let's get back into it. Last match of the event. Cody Rhodes defending the undisputed WWE Championship against. Now, with that said, it has been made official yesterday that the Universal title is now retired. And they are backtracking it to Roman Reigns being the last champion, not Cody Rhodes, even though they were recognizing him throughout the entire reign on the website as WWE champion and Universal champion. Now they're saying he's never been Universal champion. I think that's wrong,
Yeah,
but
it is. Sounds like another screw job to the Rhodes family.
yeah, it's
I did like though he did kind of when he came out his entrance in a way kind of did you notice this? He paid homage to the Iron Man
yeah, that
with
was
that
cool as
mask.
hell.
That was cool as hell.
Yeah, the way that it's there, and then all of a sudden it just opens
Opens up.
up. I'm
Yeah,
like,
like
holy shit,
the
that was
Iron
pretty
Man
cool.
mask. Yeah.
Yeah, it looked pretty cool. I like the entrance. I like the way they did the whole entrance of his. The match itself, it was not. It didn't, in my opinion, live up to the hype.
No.
No,
And I called that too. I knew he was going to lose the title.
I here's what I'm thinking. John was saying before that he was going to ruin wrestling.
You can't.
So, do you think that maybe the match itself wasn't as good on purpose?
I think maybe that's why he wrestled the way he did.
Yeah, it might have been,
slow and
but the whole thing was as is I still think it's got a lot to do with the belts. Yeah, he's going to take it with him or retire the belt, like which you said already happened. But it opens the doors for them to bring in a new title, which it's about time, rename it, redesign it, the whole works. Because there's three titles out there that look kind of like blonde, blah. They when they came out with the new Intercontinental title for the women, and the Intercontinental title and the U.S. title, those all look a lot better than the heavyweight title.
Yeah, but what he's talking about is he's going to end the lineage of that title with him, and they would have to start all new. And I don't
Yeah,
think that's the right thing to do.
I don't think
I
that
don't
that's
think they're going to do
possible
that.
because there's too many fans out there that are diehard fans that know the truth, and that'd be hard for that'd be like erasing a whole lot of history that's going to take too much of the time that they can't do because you can erase the one person because he did something bad and erase him from the, but you can't do this to the titles. Yeah, you can get rid of a title and say it no longer exists, but now you're going to have to start all over with the reigning of this new title, right? So you got a new
Well,
record book.
That's what they did with the world title when Seth
Right.
Rollins won it. They they took that world's title and made it a different lineage from the world title that they had before.
But now when you go and look at all of these people like Ric Flair and John Cena and Roman Reigns and all of this, and you look, their records are always going to be in the record book for holding the most titles and holding this title for so many days because all of Ric Flair's 17 title matches weren't all WWF belts or WWE belts.
Only two of them were.
Right. I mean, he look at how many times him and Sting went at it together in WCW or NWA for the heavyweight title of that whatever they were wrestling under. That went back and forth several times between those two. Does each one of those count as a win? It should,
well,
but
I
it
look at it.
doesn't.
I look at it this way. There's two options they could go with this whole title thing. One, they could have Cena retire with that title, therefore
Which would
bring a
piss
new
some
world.
people off because Bret Hart never got that chance, and he was supposed to retire, and we ended up with a Montreal screw job. You
Yeah.
know,
Well, he was actually swapping
companies.
companies, but they could have him retire with as champion, and that would put in a tournament
yep,
to have the new
champion crowned.
right new WWF champion
Oh, do
versus
do
the
it at
world champion.
the Rumble because he retires in December.
Yeah,
Crown a new. Well, that puts it in Saudi Arabia. That's where the Rumble's at next year.
Yuck.
Two, I see them designing a new title for going forward and retiring that belt
They need
design.
they need a new design because that one is
Uh,
just
well,
bland. It looks
there's
like a toy.
there's three of them that have that same design. If you look currently, there's three of them that have that same design with that big W in the center, and they all need to be redesigned because
well,
all these other belts look a lot nicer. I'd rather have the Intercontinental or the U.S. title because they're nicer looking belt, or hell, even tag titles are better looking.
yeah. Um, I don't. And there's another side of me that I don't think they're going to let him retire with a title. I think whether it be Orton or somebody else is going to wind up
Mm,
taking it from him.
I don't know. I think that was only Vince McMahon thing back in the days, and now that he's gone, and you've got new powers in charge, he
I can't
might
see him keeping it till December.
and or he might be the first to retire with a belt. you know, and with the Rock in charge and of TKO and all these people, I could
That's
see that happening.
that's another issue that I don't like didn't like about the storyline is where you have The Rock coming out and giving Cody an ultimatum, and then of course Cena being his guy towards the end of it when Cody refused,
I think
and
that
then
was the only way to return Cena heel.
but then well I understand that whole part, but then once that was done, you never saw The Rock again.
No,
You know, at least make an appearance at WrestleMania.
or do something like be in John's corner and help him out or something, make it
Right.
more
Even if
interesting.
you come down towards the end of the match and help with the win.
I mean, I understand why they did this to break Ric Flair's record, because you want somebody new or younger for the younger generation to that record to shoot for. Some of this younger generation, they're like, Ric Flair, who the hell is he, or whatever.
They just wanted a company
If
guy.
they needed a fresh face to hold that record, and he was the closest one to it next to Randy Orton.
And you think about it, he's a WWF guy,
Yeah,
WWE
they
guy.
wanted a company guy to have
Yeah.
it.
He's a company guy completely.
So that makes even more sense to let him retire with it, because he's going to be probably one of the only ones that never really jumped ship or started somewhere else.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, nowhere to really go now.
I mean, he started kind of a heel to begin with, turned
Yeah,
babyface. He comes full circle by ending his career as a heel. I mean, he used to come out, remember the big chain, the padlock, and all of that, rapping whatever to his opponent, like, you can't match me or whatever,
that
you
was so.
know.
I'd like to think that John will end up redeeming himself in the last match,
Turning face again.
turning back face, like there's some sort of a redemption. I'd like to think that something like that will end up happening instead of him just finishing as a heel.
Oh,
It-
that's kind of a
it-
good
right
way how
now,
he
fans are
started
cheering
as
him.
heel.
I mean, they were still cheering him. I mean, even during the match, he was getting cheered.
Yeah,
So,
And him turning heel really didn't hurt his reputation that much.
it didn't hurt anything.
Right.
because
But
people know
on
now.
the other hand, if Cody would have taken the ultimatum and turned heel, that would have made a huge impact.
He is going to turn heel at some point.
Yeah, but it wasn't that way because Cody's not one to like sell out. You sold out. I don't think he could have done that. He's
He's
got to
going.
do it on his own terms.
I think a lot of things need to happen, and I think we are in that process because look what happened at the end of this match. He could have done something, and he decides not to,
Yep.
and he lost the title because of it.
Right.
So
When he
eventually, it's going to get to a point where you know what? I have had enough.
Yeah, he snaps.
Yeah,
I see him coming back and eventually down the road somewhere, and the crowd pop's going to be huge, and then he's going to go heel.
Yeah, and I could see him doing like the, not to bring up, I really can't stand this guy personally and as a wrestler now. But, Hulk Hogan, when he did that heel turn and became Hollywood Hulk Hogan with the black and white, I could see something like that with his outfit and skull and all of that just going kind of dark.
He's going to come back as the Midnight Rider.
Yeah, kind of like doing a dark version of the American Nightmare.
Hmm.
Or the Yellow Dog.
what if at some point before Cody turns, he's having one of those crisis things of confusion and everything, and then somebody else comes out dressed as Stardust.
I like it. Just because I like bringing that up all the time. I know he hates
Yeah,
it.
yeah, he can't stand that, And then there's also the theories of, in AEW, there was a Nightmare Family,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know, and what if that faction gets created and somehow, some way,
they were all.
He's
That
got
was his
some wrestling.
brother and like all the people he was training, though.
yeah,
So
but see, like Gold Dust isn't really Gold Dust anymore. He's got this half red makeup with
oh
a,
yeah,
you
yeah, I
know,
know. I've seen
like,
him.
see, what if he comes over and like kind of,
He's like a half gold dust now.
Yeah,
yeah,
he only paints like half his face and
Yeah.
but
different
but it's
moves.
like, what if he comes over and that Nightmare faction happens, and it turns Cody dark because
You know
I don't
what?
like Cody
Dustin
Dark.
coming over.
What
I
if it?
don't like this Cody, so I want Cody Dark. So
Because now that Cody's established himself on his own without his brother or anybody else to help him like that, I think that would be the perfect time for them to kind of reunite together one more time as brothers. I
You
would like
know,
to see that.
I would like to see something happen behind the scenes where all these baby faces are getting jumped, backstage, and they find them, beat up, and there's this big mystery of who's doing all this stuff, and then, at one point in time, Cody, something happens in the ring where somebody's getting some babyface getting crap beat out of him, and then Cody's music comes on, it comes running the ring and does the whole Hulk Hogan swap, and then you come
Or,
to find out that he's the one that's been behind behind all the
or,
jumps
or
backstage.
if not for Dustin, let's say I got a better idea. Karrion Cross gets in his head,
Oh, that'd be
or
good.
what is that? Malachi Black or whatever, Alistair Black.
yeah,
That's
whatever.
in WWE, Malachi in AEW.
He just signed a contract with WWE recently, right around the same time Rusev did. Okay, I could see something like that becoming the Nightmare faction. Uh, Karrion Cross, Black, and Cody Rhodes.
I can see Cody bringing something similar to the Mafia
Yeah,
because he's already wearing the suit,
right.
and that is a perfect look
Didn't
for
they
the
kind of do
Ultimate
that
Warrior.
with like the Millionaires Club or the Billionaires Club or whatever it was called back in the day? And it was like Ric Flair and uh, uh,
The
and they would
Horseman.
all come out dressed in suits.
Yeah.
You
Okay,
know,
I gotta go do shots, guys. I gotta go do my insulin. So
All right. Well, we're
well,
gonna
they got a lot
I
to
know
do.
you're almost done. Thank you for having me on.
we're gonna have to wrap this up really soon too because I need to go to my dad's here in a few minutes.
Yeah,
Okay,
I got some
thank
things
you,
I got to get
everybody. Have
done.
a good one.
See you, Chris.
So
See ya.
so let's get back to John and Cody. The match was a severe letdown for me,
Yep,
and a lot
it
of other
could have been
people
a
are
much
saying that.
better match.
So I wonder if it was a letdown match on purpose because of what John's doing with the Runin wrestling and all that.
I don't think storyline wise it would be smart, or business wise it'd be smart. Um, that's just my opinion. I don't think they would.
How
I
many
think they
times did
just.
John give him the AA?
I don't know, several. But the match just wasn't a good match for whatever reason. It just wasn't that great of a match for
Well,
me.
they had some tough matches to follow to
They
begin
did.
with. I mean,
They did.
the Saturday night's main event kind of stole the show on both occasions because that match was full of surprises and twists and turns
Yeah,
that
Saturday night,
nobody saw
Friday
coming.
night. Excuse me. Saturday night was uh, a big act to follow, tough act to follow because you had a
Right.
bunch of great matches on that card. Um, The best match to me, the second night was definitely Io, Bianca, and Rhea.
I agree with that.
Um,
I'm
you
going
know,
to agree. The Intercontinental was a very close second.
that's what I got on my list too. That was a very close second. Third was Damian Priest and Drew, AJ and Logan Paul. And you got the women's tag titles. Uh, I got Cody and
It was the worst night.
John Cena was six. I got Randy Orton's as the to me for the least of the night.
Yeah.
Well, I think it
What
was
really
that
killed that
Randy
match
Orton
was
needs a
Travis Scott
clearance.
coming out.
Yeah, the Wyatt Six. I was expecting them to show up.
Yeah, that.
And I get it. That,
And they had the perfect opportunity on night two. And the whole way I was kind of hoping that was going to happen was a big disappointment because, all right, the man's back. I get it. But I was kind of expecting, maybe Alexa Bliss showing up to tag with, and and then the Wyatt Six kind of doing something during that match.
If she had been, then that probably would have. But
That whole place, the roof would have, that audience would have blown the roof off of that place, and that would have
hmm
sold the show.
yeah, would have.
I would I would say they need to start leading up again and have it happen at a pay per view. It's not a Monday night thing where they all come out. I think it's deserving of a pay per view. Um,
But the Wyatt
uh,
Six were originally supposed to be on WrestleMania.
Right, that's what I thought. And now that both Bo Dallas has been cleared, and Alexa's obviously been cleared because she, last she was seen was Elimination Chamber.
hmm
Um, you know, they had the perfect opportunity, and here you have a wide open storyline. They could have even had Nikki Cross come in and attack Valkyrie there, right? So that she'd have to be replaced too. And now you got Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss versus Ricala and Liv for the belts. Now that would have been a hell of a fucking match because they made an awesome tag team early on in both their careers. Because
well, that too, and if both of them being in that match, you know damn well Wyatt Six is coming.
right, and see, Nikki has really done something. I mean, it took her a while, but remember she was doing that staring stuff and kind of acting all nuts, and then the next thing you know, she's sitting there part of Wyatt Six,
hmm
as the witch, and it's been well documented and stuff that Alexa Bliss, well, she came out dressing and looking like Harley Quinn. Well, that didn't work so much, but this whole dark side of her after Bray Wyatt kind of kidnapped her and stuff, and all of a sudden now she's Sister Abigail.
Yeah,
That would they're they're dropping the ball on this. Seriously, they are dropping the ball on this.
I see it. I see
Good
it coming in the near
carry
future.
on. Yeah, that's what I was hoping for, but none of it ever showed up. Just little hints here and there, and it's like I'm tired of the teases. Bring them back.
hmm
Yeah. Well, probably when they were doing the teases, Bo wasn't hurt. So when he did get hurt, they had to put a stop on everything. That's my guess.
Well, now you got and I really, and I've said this before. I think that they should give the reins of the leadership to Alexa.
Yeah,
Um,
Sister Abigail.
right, have her lead, and just like before, have Howdy in the background.
Yep,
Um,
I
I think
agree.
it would. I think it would work really well. So,
And the
time will
last
tell.
time. last two times she appeared, both times there was like a hint of the Wyatt Six little code or
Yep.
something, and they're dropping the ball by making this take too long.
Well, they probably had no choice but to wait this long because of everything else that's happening.
Yeah, I
We'll,
see.
we'll find out eventually what's going on.
I'm gonna say SummerSlam.
Hopefully, not that long.
2 nights, which now they got another hip hop artist, you know, getting involved in the theme music junk.
Well, I just
You know,
want to see Nikki and Alexa tag one more time.
You want to see what?
Nikki and Alexa as a tag team
Oh,
one more time. Now that they've kind of grown into their characters and stuff.
I
they
could see that and taking the tag titles, women's
Yep.
tag titles.
they were really good as a tag team.
I think they'd be much better and a lot more fun to watch now as part
Well,
of the
but
Wyatt Six than what they were before.
and maybe that's a direction they can go with the women's tag titles. Just start having this eerie stuff happening around Liv and Raquel, and they don't know what's going on, and
Yep.
eventually they come out and reveal and take the titles from them.
Yep.
That'll be good. That'll be real
Well, I got to run. It's been almost 4 hours. That's a
Wow.
record show.
good.
Longer
I
than
did not
Friday.
think we were going to go this long, but after realizing we didn't even get into the second match until 40 minutes into the show, I knew it was going to take a while.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, WrestleMania I thought was good as a whole, but that very last match was just it's just bad.
it wasn't the worst match of the 2 nights. To me, I leave it up to Randy Orton and them, and it's not really no fault of their own. Or the situation that happened with KO.
But at least that match was very entertaining. The Cody Rhodes and John Cena didn't take me for a ride. There was
Yeah.
no
It should have really.
there was no emotional investment into it once that bell rang. There was a lot leading up to it, but once they started going at it,
And they
it
didn't
was
get that
bad.
crowd going either, like this is awesome or anything like that. A
Did not
lot.
hear any of that.
Right. And
Don't forget, we also called John. We also saw John calling spots too, and you
yeah,
could hear.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, that was like evident. I had this headset on while I was watching on my phone. I was watching
Yeah,
WrestleMania on it, and I mean these pick up really good, and you could hear, hit me again, hit me again. It's like, oh my
yeah,
god, this is horrible. And I noticed that in a bunch of different matches. If it wasn't for the commentary, you could hear the guys in the ring, calling the shots and all.
yeah, but
It's
John's
like,
probably the worst of them all.
oh
yeah.
yeah, you could definitely.
That whole match kind of was a big disappointment. I mean, the one with Randy and that Joe Henry, at least it had a purpose to highlight somebody new, introduce you to TNA more,
Yeah,
and Randy made the guy look good. That was the whole purpose for Randy to make him look good. He may not have won the match, but he
He
made
got
him
his
look
shots
good.
in.
yeah,
Yeah.
but he still made himself and TNA look good as well.
Right, right. That's just it. And without Randy, he couldn't have done it because, you know, Randy's like a seasoned veteran. He can make anybody look good in the ring.
What my favorite spot aside from the RKO was when Joe had the choke slam and Randy just beat right in the
Look
eye.
him in the eye. Yeah.
So I'm going to give WrestleMania. I'm going to give it a B plus. because there were a bunch of exciting matches, but there was also quite a few letdowns.
Yeah.
I think I'm being fair by giving it a B plus.
Well, if I'm grading on that scale, I'll give it a C. You know, because I think they dropped the ball in a lot of places.
There's a lot of different things they could have done storyline wise in some of these matches that I was expecting that didn't happen. With that, I'll probably agree with you, B plus. Ain't quite an A minus, almost. If the Cody and if the last match would have been better, I could definitely see in the A.
Yeah,
But it just kind of it was a
because that was the marquee.
big weekend. Yeah, that was the big match that everybody's waiting on, and it did not fulfill um, expectations for a bunch of different reasons. Um,
Yeah.
but anyway,
All right. So with that, we'll go ahead and call it a night at almost 4 hours. Um, Donald, are we doing a show on this weekend, or are we taking off?
probably gonna have to take off. I got a lot going on this weekend.
Okay.
Not only work but other outside stuff.
All right. Well, at least
So
we were able to do this review, whereas it took us forever to do the one for Elimination Chamber, and that was the one we really needed to do with John turning heel.
yeah, let's go maybe May 4th. That'll give us enough shows in between to talk about too.
And hopefully have something established for Backlash by then.
Correct.
So, all right. Well, Joe, thank you for being on with us.
Appreciate it, Joe.
Anytime.
Same for Chris if he sees his part.
Yep.
Um, did have a few comments, so thank you for playing along. And we will see you guys in a week and a half
Yep.
for the next episode. Hopefully, we'll have something to talk about for Backlash. You guys all have a good day.
Thank you.